Good afternoon and welcome to the Locally Hated Podcast. I am the news lady, Jessica Herring. I got Greg Lord with me and another mayoral candidate, Miss Lafonda Stelly. Lafonda, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so Miss Lafonda is running for mayor for the current election. And in this Civic Focus segment, we've been interviewing all the mayoral candidates and all of the candidates for all the offices. So if you are a mayoral candidate, I am asking you politely, if you haven't come on, to come on and we'll sit down and have a chat. If you haven't watched any of the episodes, we're very friendly. We let everybody have a fair shake, and I am going in unopposed. So everybody that I'm talking to is going to be, in some way, whoever goes in is going to be my coworker, could potentially be my coworker. So this is kind of a get to know your candidate series that we're doing for, the general public, so people can know who they're voting for. Because these days and age, it's hard to catch people at their house. True. It's, and people don't answer their door either, and I'm guilty of that. I'm actually, like, if I peek out, or I look at the Ring camera and then I'm like, I don't know who that is. I'm not answering the door. And it makes it hard for people that are trying to get their message out. If they don't see it on Facebook or, do things like this, it's hard. So Greg and I had a conversation about it, and I was like, hey, would you be down to do this? And he was like, yeah, I think that would be great. So that's what we're doing. Okay. So
and I'm happy about that.
I'm happy to have you here.
It's hard for me to hide in my house because I have like 40 something windows, so I can't peek around. So if someone is knocking at my door, I have to answer. Yeah.
I got a couple of sneaky windows, so I can kind of peek out and see. I'm not answering the door. But too, like when I was during the last election, or it may have been one prior, I don't remember. I was working nights. So if you came knocking on my door, in the middle of the day, I wasn't answering that door. I was out cold. I had been awake all night. So, all right. So what we're going to do is, just like we've always done, we're going to open with some get to know you type of questions. So what were you like as a kid?
As a kid, I think I was very adventurous because I had a grandfather that believed in teaching his grandchildren, just life experiences, how to work on his old truck, how to, just do, just normal everyday things.
Our grandfathers must have been related.
Really?
Yeah.
Was his name John Rene?
No. His name was Alton, but he had a farm, and we had cattle, and I worked hard. Right. He didn't pull any punches, like get that bale of hay over there. He didn't care that I couldn't pick the bale of hay up, or But and I hated it when I was younger, but I've learned that it gave me a lot of things that I needed in the future. Exactly. So if your grandpa's ever peeling a pear on a dirty case knife, definitely eat it with him and listen to whatever he's saying. So because they know some stuff.
Exactly.
So were you like an outside kid? I was an outside kid. Were you an outside kid, or were you?
I was only outside when it came to, like doing things with my grandfather until we moved away when I was 8 years old. So
you were born here or no?
I was born in Ville Platte.
Oh, okay. So you're native Louisianian.
I am.
Okay.
I'm from Louisiana.
Okay. So then you moved. Were you military? Is that what happened?
My mom, when I was 8, married my father, and we moved away. We went to North Carolina for 5 years, and then we just moved around. North Carolina, Texas, California. But I ended up back in Ville Platte in the 11th grade, so I was able to graduate from Ville Platte High. And then I went on to Southern University and got a degree in computer science business option. From there, I went on to New Orleans and worked there for 11 years. And then I was lucky enough for my father to retire military here out at Fort Polk. And after that 11th year in New Orleans, and I had my daughter, I told my husband, I said, this isn't happening. I'm out of here.
Okay, so when you say you worked in New Orleans, what did you do in New Orleans?
I started off as a software engineer.
Oh, okay.
And then a systems analyst, and then, just went up the chain of doing great things.
Yeah, she was as you were wont to do, 30 minutes early as well. And so I had her come into the studio, and we were just talking about what she does and all that. And was excited to hear that she was, a software engineer previously and database administrator. And so we nerded out a little bit.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So you went to Southern, okay?
I did.
Did you play in the band?
Oh, of course not.
You didn't play in the band.
I don't even know how to dance.
They have a
I don't-
fantastic band.
They do.
Did you jam with the band at least?
Well, of course, at the games.
Okay.
You know, I was at the games.
Yeah, I
but-
love to see when they do those I don't know what they call them. I guess they're competitions, like when the bands go against each other or when they're playing football and they're like going back and I love it.
Yeah.
I geek so hard for that stuff because it's like they're really good at it.
They are.
They're really good at it.
They hire the best talent to
Yes.
make that happen for that school.
They're phenomenal. Southern is like legendary for their band, and it's I never skip a Southern band video ever.
Good.
Never. When I'm mindlessly scrolling, I never
Good for
skip
you.
one. So if you're just mindlessly scrolling, you see a Southern band video, you should definitely watch, take it in, and enjoy it. So were you always the type to take on responsibility, or did that come later?
That came from the beginning.
From the beginning?
Because I'm the oldest. I have a younger brother.
yeah.
So as the oldest, you have to take on the responsibility. So when he was born, you know, I was 3.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's when it begins.
You got stuff you got to do now.
You got to do it. You know, you got to help your mom do it.
You just have the one sibling?
I do.
You're just the one sibling.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom only had 2.
Yeah, that's it's indicative of older children. My niece is the same way. She's the eldest, and she just she's like a little mother hen, and her brothers
yes.
are grown, but she she fusses at them like a mom, and so it came early for her
I
as
still do
well.
it now with my brother.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and how old is he?
He's in his 50s. He's a paramedic for Acadian, so
Oh,
you know.
John.
Yeah, John Williams.
Yeah, he's
That's
great.
my baby brother.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that. I think somebody told me that the other day, and that's why it clicked just now. He's an
amazing human.
He is.
Yes.
He's been helping out the citizens of Vernon Parish for I don't know how long he's been a
almost 30
paramedic.
years.
He's helped a lot of us on some of our worst days. So I
Yes.
can't think of a better brother.
Yes.
My brother, I'm a middle child, so I'm a menace. Because I got more rules because my sister was a menace, and my brother got less rules because he was the baby. So it's like all this. I get all the flack from here, but then I can't pass it down because he's a baby.
Right.
So, I'm 40 and he's 38 and I'm still like, you're an idiot. Like, is that how you are with your brothers?
I mean, I was the baby as well, but
Oh, that's what's wrong with you.
yeah,
Or what's right with you.
right. No, I had,
bit of both.
I had Christina, the oldest, just telling me what to do and what not to do. I remember I was like, I don't know, 6 or something. And we were going to Walmart and she said, do you know what take the initiative means? And I'm like, no, I'm 6. And she's like, well, I want you to take initiative and go in the store and get whatever we needed. And here's some money and pay for it, And I was like, okay. And every time I think of that, take the initiative, I think of Christina,
It's so funny that you're saying that because that is such a Christina thing to
Yeah.
say. I can
Yes.
see her and hear her saying that.
Yeah.
So she is an older sister to her core. She to her core. So I can totally see her saying that. Anybody that knows Christina Lord, she's definitely a mother hen type.
And an amazing woman as
She
well.
really is.
Yep,
she really is. And she means well, even when she's mother
yes.
henning, she's telling you, because I still talk to her to this day, and I'll call her and she'll be like, well, have you tried, and she'll tell me a better approach to something. And it inevitably always works out. So,
Always.
Christina and I both definitely got the some of the largest doses, I think, in our family of the type A personality that kind of on my dad's side, So
I picked her up one time in Alexandria. We were going down to Baton Rouge for Chamber Day, and I told her, I was like, I'll just pick you up. I'm going through Alexandria anyway. So she's getting ready, and she has a really beautiful home, and I'm helping her, and she grabs this little travel sewing kit. And I'm not paying, I don't know what she's doing. You never know what Christina's doing, So we're getting in the truck, and she gets in the truck, and she's sewing her button back on her. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I ran out of time, but I got to sew this. But it's such a Christina thing, like I didn't even notice, but she noticed, So yeah, she's a great lady. Okay, so my next question is, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Well, initially, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Really?
Yeah, because I had a German Shepherd when I was small. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I could be a veterinarian. I could take care of all the dogs. And then I realized I had to go to school for 8 years. I was like, that's not going to happen. And when I realized that I had to, help cows have calves, that was a showstopper as well.
For Paisley, it was when she realized she would have to euthanize them.
Yeah.
She was out.
Yeah. I hadn't even gotten to that point yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even get past
the cows. Which is funny because it's like that's such a normal thing on a farm. It's just like, oh yeah, you got to go pull a calf, but I could see where it would be a deterrent.
Yeah.
But it's also a really hard program to get into. Super hard program to get into. So I think the acceptance rate is really low.
Yeah, undergrad is good, but getting into the next higher level.
Yeah. So did you go straight to Southern from high school?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So she was serious. She went straight to college.
Well, I didn't have a choice. Your parents don't give you a choice. Your parents tell you have to go to college, so you have to go to college.
Yeah.
So then that's what you do.
She didn't.
You just have to pick what it is that you want to do. So when you get out, you're successful because there's no, backwards plan.
Correct.
So when you're moving forward, you have to continue to move forward.
That's exactly right.
So then my next option, I say, well, I could be a psychiatrist. That sounds cool. I could talk to people all day, solve their problems, and that's interesting. And then again, 8 more years.
I'm more years.
No, I want to do something where I can get it done, and get a job and be moving on with my life.
Well, I'll ask you a variant of the same question that I asked Lewis. And for him, it was what have you done in your career that you feel like has prepared you to be mayor? And for you, I think, we talked about your background a little bit before the show, and I'm excited about your background because, we have so many things technologically that we're living in the Stone Ages. I have, look, I don't know what our city government infrastructure is, but I can take a few guesses, Okay. So on the technology front, how would you kind of use your experience there as mayor?
Okay, so 33 years of technology is where I stand. And it's important to me in order to kind of incorporate the technology so the residents can know what's going on. There has to be a way to, put out, which is the next roads that's going to be, repaired.
It's foundational, right? Like, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is there's all this infrastructure that goes on in the back end to enable the things that you're talking about. Most people will never know why, right. A SQL database, and a secure one at that would be important for city government.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, her saying that just prompted me to think, we have a website, we have a city website, and I don't see why we couldn't have a tab on there somewhere. Current
there could be
projects.
A million tabs on there.
Yeah, current projects. Like and that's something I never thought of because, and I'm speaking frankly here, I make sure that I'm informed. And I don't think that everybody else does that,
Right.
So I take that for granted because I know what I know. Just for instance, before I got here, before I got off work, I was watching a video and this lady was ranting and she was like, I don't know why we would do this and not this. And she lists these things that we should do that are in fact already in place. And it's like, how do you not know this? And it's a really difficult gap. Like, how do you, but I think and we talked about this when Lewis was on here as well. I think the public does have to take some of the initiative to find the information that they
Correct.
want and to be informed. But I do think that we as a whole, as a group, leaders, et cetera, do need to figure out a way to put that information out there. And
Easily.
I don't think Facebook is the way.
Well, Facebook is not the way when it has to do with, policies
Correct.
and infrastructure of the city.
Correct.
That needs to be something where you go to the city's website.
Yes.
And that information is readily available.
Correct.
Clicking on for the agenda, clicking on, any information that a person needs to know about the city, that website needs to be robust.
Well, and I know the agendas and the minutes are on there, but like we have a community calendar on there that anybody can add their stuff to. When you said that, I was like, man, I bet we could do a tab and, whatever the infrastructure, because a lot of times, specifically, we'll just say in the parish, right? People will be like, oh, the police jury never does anything. Well, if you live in Pitkin, and you never traveled to Simpson or Hicks or any of those places, and I'm not picking on any of those places, you don't have any idea what they're doing because you're all the way on the other side of the parish.
Exactly.
So it's the same with the city because I'm a creature of habit. I go to work, I go to the store, So traveling all these little roads that are being repaired is not something that I do every day.
Yeah, you don't see it.
I don't see it. I don't see the water leaks or the new stuff they're putting in, or if I wasn't driving past it. So I think it's easy to assume the worst, but you're right. If it was readily available right there.
And like you said, just kind of meeting people where they're at, not, some people do have to take some initiative and all of that. And I'm guilty of that as well. Like, missing the various parades, like missing the Mardi Gras parade and stuff. I meant to go to that, but I didn't know when it was. I could have gone on and, found the calendar and all of that and figured it out. But, wouldn't it be so much better if we could just like sign up for text message alerts or whatever for upcoming events?
And I do know that is a thing because there are Nixle alerts, but the Nixle alerts are for emergencies. So I know that we don't have the functionality this time to send out those sort of alerts, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility.
We're here to tell you for sure it's not.
Right.
Like once you put all of that in a SQL database.
Yeah, it's there. It's there just to push out.
Look, it's not costly by nature. Like you can go right now on your desktop and make a SQL database and start putting data in it. And then from there, you can distribute that data in all sorts of different ways. The actual text messages, I built a Discord bot a few years ago. My friend was like, let me know when you get on Discord. So, so we had a game we were both playing and I was like, I'm not going to text you every time I get on Discord. And I was like, I'm just going to make a bot that like sends you a text message when I join a voice channel. And so I did that and it worked really well. I got my friends using it and all of that. So long story short, I actually have experience like using text message APIs and they're not very expensive. Now, what could be expensive, and I was actually leading down this road with you before is, are you aware of any software engineering resources that the city has, or I assume that a lot of that would be contracted out. I don't know what we have locally, but
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't have any software engineers on staff.
No. Right.
So that would always be something that would get contracted out.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make sense for our size of government to have that on staff, but I didn't know if you knew already any contractor relationships or whatever with software engineers. And look, I'm biased. I'm in the tech sector, so I don't want to make it seem like that's necessarily the most important thing, but it is one of the major challenges I think that we face.
I do think that it would be important. Let's just say there's a bull advisory from Boone Street to Kings Road. If those residents could get, how do I make that happen? I have no idea.
Right. But it needs to happen,
right?
Because
I think
sometimes on my street there'll be a bull advisory, and I'll find out 2 days later. I'm like, really? I was drinking this water and cooking with this water, and I didn't even know.
I know. I had the same thing the other day.
So
I happened to get on Facebook, which I try not to get on Facebook, but. The fact that I had to find out via Facebook, I was like,
that information needs to be pushed out.
I think that that is something that we can definitely look into, and I do definitely think that could happen. And I'm fully on board with however we make that happen. Because we're in a day and age where people, they're like, oh, well, you didn't text me or you didn't, and it's like, and emails don't work either. I need to be very clear about that because there's a lot of people, like if they hand you their phone, they have 7,000 unread emails.
Oh, yes.
So it's going to have to come in the form of a text message. I can't stand the little red dots. So I'm not type A, I guess, unless it comes to my phone.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to move this in front of the door. The sun is just beaming, and we normally don't record at this time of day.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. You want me to stop or you want us to keep talking? Okay. So who influenced you the most as a kid? Like when you were growing up?
I think my mom.
Your mom?
And my dad, because they were very hard workers. My dad was in the military. And my mom, she did, she worked in dining facilities as well. So they were extremely hard workers. So that just made me realize that, you you just have to go after what it is that you want, and you just have to work hard at it in order to be successful.
Lafonda didn't get gentle parenting.
No.
We talk about gentle parenting all the time.
No, I did not. I did not. I mean, you're told what to do and you do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That we talk about that a lot because, and I have a Gen Z child, and I've tried to reach some balance between like gentle parenting and boomer parenting because my parents are boomers or Gen X or whatever it is they are, and it's a hard balance. It's a really hard balance because you don't want to be like you don't want to be too rough on them, but at the same time, like Paisley's presently trying every button I've got, and it's, like I want to put her in a headlock, but that's illegal, so
Sure.
now you and I would have probably gotten put in a headlock, so
definitely. Because we didn't have the backup of, you can call 911 and they'll come and they'll save you.
Yeah. There was
not the, rescue team.
Yeah, there was no rescue team. So, I mean, well, and I can always respect that. Not that, and I always give the disclaimer, I don't knock gentle parenting. I just think it's for gentle children, and I don't possess gentle children. So,
I mean, I did the same thing with my kids. I mean, I didn't give them an option.
Yeah.
They have to go to school and they have to make straight A's, and then they have to graduate, and they were both valedictorians, and then they have to go
Good
to
for
college.
you. Good for you.
Because my daughter, she ended up going to LSU and then to Southern Law School. And
that's what I'm talking about.
Magna cum laude from that. So,
Man.
And then now she's working in Baton Rouge. And then my son, he went to LSU, and he majored in nuclear physics, and now he's living in New York.
So he took after mom.
Well, I mean, I didn't give them options. This is what you do. You go to school, you make A's. You go to college, you make A's. You go to, you get a great job. You
have to.
You move forward with your career.
You don't
your
have an
life.
option. There's no option.
There's no backup plan.
Yeah, it's a sink or swim sort of thing. So I think that's great. Like having a kid that went to law school in nuclear physics, I would never be that smart. Like,
no, I would hate to be your kid. sounds rough. No, that's good.
So, but they love their life,
Right.
they didn't see any other option. So,
I do think it boils down to that.
Yes.
Paisley has her mornings, she's a teenager. I don't want to go to school. And I'm like, okay, well, let me break it down for you. You will go to school every single day that you are not deathly ill, and you will graduate, and these are all the things you're going to do. And you don't have an option because you are in school until you graduate. I don't care. I don't care how old you are until you graduate, or you can move out of my house on your own. This is what you have to do, and I think it's just it just shows, the dedication that you have for your kids and for, creating productive members of society. I think that's important, because.
And then the family as well, backing you up on that.
Yes.
My mom backed me up on that. My dad backed me up on that as far as like showing them the importance of having a good education. Their father backed me up on that. So.
And I have a hard time, because I don't think education is prioritized as much as it should be. And that's so weird to say that because, our grandparents and their parents, they didn't finish school, but they worked hard, and now we're in a position where we do need hard workers, but we also need smart people. We don't need SoundCloud rappers. We need plumbers, so those are the kinds of things that it's like, and I never tell my kids failure is not an option because failure happens. It's the ability to get back up and try again after you failed. And I think that's where the softness is coming in, where it's like, well, this didn't work out, so nothing else is going to work out either. And I think that's such a bad approach. And it's like,
I never ever explain to them failure. Everything that they do is an experience, right?
Experience.
So you shouldn't see something that didn't work in your favor as failure. It was just something that you tried and it didn't work in your favor. So now let's figure out what will work.
Yeah. Well, and the old school, the Southerners, they call that when God closes a door, he opens a window, so I always have to look at it as this didn't, because I ran for office before and I was really sad, because I was so hopeful and so I was so raring to go to be on the city council because in my heart, and you get on Facebook and you read all this crap about people, oh, all politicians suck. And, and it's like, I don't think you or I, either one, are going in for that. I was talking to somebody complaining about something one time, and she just said, "Are you gonna bitch about it, or are you gonna do something?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, so what is stopping me from it?" Right.
You gotta do something.
And I was so disappointed. And I remember I went the next morning and I was picking up all my signs and I was crying. I was licking my wounds by myself. I was all by myself. 5:00 in the morning picking up my signs, and something had happened, and it was very ugly, and I got so mad and I was so sad at the same time. And then I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna prove them all wrong. I didn't not win. This doesn't suck. This is a learning experience. And I'm gonna figure out how to win the next time. And admittedly, I didn't win. I was unopposed, but I'll take it.
Well, it was because now it's your time.
Right.
You didn't win the other time because it just wasn't your time.
My
but you're
time.
ready now. You've gotten 4 years of experience doing all kinds of stuff in the city, being on different organizations.
Yes.
So you are going to best represent your district now because you have all of that experience.
And that's like when I went in unopposed this time, coming down to the wire, and you're watching the site to make sure nobody registers.
It's meant to be.
And I was just like, it's my time, and Galen's 20 years older than me. He always tries to tell me that. He's like, Jessica, when things line up, they line up, and that's when it's supposed to happen. Yes. And I was so impatient about it before, but you're right. I got the 4 years of experience. Yes. I got to meet people. I got to learn how the government worked, because before, when people would ask me, oh, what are you going to do when you get in there? I'd be like, I don't know. Why are you asking me that? I've never been a city council person before.
Now you know.
Now I know. Now I know how it works. Now I know how to go about doing things and what we can and can't do. And I've probably driven everybody on that administration crazy, because I will ask the questions. Hey, why did y'all do this? Why didn't you do it this way? Why would we do it this way? And when I get
She's creating her database.
Yeah. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Truly. But if you ask me to code anything, I can't do that.
except MySpace profile banner, right?
Yeah, the MySpace profile banner. So what do you do when you're not on the, when you're just not completely no responsibilities? Like Sundays is, besides the podcast, Sundays I usually don't schedule anything.
Oh, every day, every minute of the day, there's something that I should be doing. I really have to take away from something that needs to be done in order to have free time.
Okay.
I do the vintage mall, so on my free times, I'm redoing the third floor so then we can open up that. We only have the first and the second floor ready to go with all vendors in it, about 40 vendors. So I'm trying to get another 20 vendors on the third floor. So free time, right now, I would be up there painting those walls.
Mm-hmm.
So are you retired completely?
So I do not work at Fort Polk anymore. That was 3 years ago.
Okay,
I'm
so
done with that
you're doing the vintage mall thing.
So I'm doing the vintage mall, and of course, I flip houses.
Right.
So I still love doing that because it's just now that I've done 20 something houses in commercial buildings, and then once I went on that Netflix thing, and they were like, so how many houses are you gonna, flip in Leesville? I'm like, as many as I can. So in the back of my mind, I'm still, kind of doing that obligation that I just said for myself that I was going to continue flipping houses until I can't flip houses anymore.
Tell us about this Netflix thing.
Yeah.
So I was on this show. It was called Buy My House, and it had 6 episodes. And I was the end of episode 4, the last 7 minutes of episode 4,
have to go home and watch this.
And the first 3 minutes of episode 5. And it was just about, you go on and you give your spiel about them buying your house, because they were in the business. It's like Shark Tank. And they were in the business of buying your house to turn it into, rental property, Airbnbs, or whatever they were going to do with it. But they didn't buy my house because I am still in that house. But what they did do was offer me $400,000 in order to work with me flipping as many houses that I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
how many have you done so far since then?
Well, since then, when I was on the show, I had only done 18. And now I'm up to, 20 something.
Okay.
But I did it on my own because when I came back and, my bank that, gives me the money to do this, they're like, well, why would you go into partnership with 4 people plus an entity of a business that a percentage of that has to go to the business and then a percentage would have to go to me. So they're like, why would you flip a house and have to split your money, like 6 ways? I'm like, that's a
really good question.
Yeah, why would I do that? Why would I give, all of that back when I have a bank that's willing to
do the same thing?
To give me the money to buy the house, to renovate the house, to sell the house, and then go on to the next house.
That was a good banker. Whoever that is, you need to keep them.
Oh man, I love this bank, and I'm not even going to say who it is, and I'm not going to say how great of a relationship that I have with this bank. I mean, I can text and say, "Hey, look," or I can text and say, "Hey, can you pay this?" Or they'll text me and say, "Oh, we got your mortgage taken care of." It is incredible how personal this bank is and how it works with me.
Galen was like that with Mr. Ken Hughes at Merchants and Farmers Bank. But he and Galen used to coach ball together, and when I very first, he would be like, "Oh, I'm going to text Ken." And I'm like, "Don't text Ken." I'd be like, "Just call the bank." And he was like, "That's not how I do business." And it's the same thing.
Same thing.
I mean, he would text Ken and it would get taken care of, and it's just, it is so important to those personal relationships at your bank.
Yeah.
And when people ask me what I love about here, it's that.
It is.
Yeah. And
small town bank.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I was younger, a dumb college kid and all of that, when I had to get a bank account set up, I would go to like the ones with the most convenience, and to be fair, I was like, in larger cities in Texas and stuff, but, do they have mobile check deposit, mobile app, all that sort of stuff, is what I was concerned with. But now I'm starting to, because my dad was the same way, just loves his relationship with small local bank, because when you need to finance a project or whatever, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. And now that I have ventures and stuff that I want to do, and I'm like, I got to approach like Chase Bank and tell them I want money for like,
because who's in charge of that?
Yeah, but Chase Bank doesn't know you.
Right. It's almost insurmoutably hard. I mean, that and the interest rate situation, it would just be like, yeah. So I'm kicking myself for not kind of, and I still haven't established a relationship with a local bank. I need to go do that.
It's a huge
now that I live here,
game changer. And I guess it was because I was younger. Same, I didn't really understand that. And the older I've gotten, I'm just like, yeah, it's the same thing with insurance. You need to be able to have personal relationships with them, so that's why we use local agencies, because when I text them, I have 2 insurance agents, and when I text them, it might not be right away, but they're going to get it taken care of.
Yeah,
that day, I mean, within an hour, and it's so important. And I really never understood that. I never understood that when I was younger, because I'd be like, shop local. That's why you shop local.
Exactly.
That's why you shop local.
They know you and you know them.
Well, and then you get older and it's like, hey, Amazon's not sponsoring my kid's softball team. Exactly. Because people, they'll ask me, why are you getting, and it's a shameless plug for Casey, but they'll be like, why are you getting fuel at Jack's? Because it's 10 cents higher. I'm going to pay it. Because she's invested in the community. Yep. She sponsors softball teams. She donates baskets to she donates to all of these organizations, and she fed the firefighters for free during the wildfires for days. Yep. So without question, I'm gonna go get gas at Casey's every time, because Circle K is not missing me. Casey will, So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from getting older and learning to appreciate rather than being part of the problem, because I think it's a big eye opener when somebody says something like that to you. Are you going to bitch about it or are you going to fix it?
Right.
It's a huge eye opener. And it was like, man, I needed to hear that. I really needed to hear it. And it came at the right time. And I couldn't be happier with that person lighting the fire under me. So what kind of stuff do you like when you do have free time? What do you do in your free time? You got like shows you watch or anything like that?
The only television I'll watch are home shows, like renovating, just to kind of get some new ideas, things like that.
So are you like a Chip and Joanna Gaines type of gal?
Of course. I mean, I made that road trip up to Texas to check it all out, see what's going on.
I took it all in. It was, and it's crazy what two people did for that town. That show. And have you been there to Waco?
I've driven through.
So you go there, and I remember what Waco was like in the 90s because I saw it on TV because, bad stuff happened. But it was kind of nothing, and then they get a college, and Chip and Joanna go and they start reinvesting into their community. And they became popular, and all of this stuff is just developing all around them. And it is insane to see that. It's been several years, but man, it was really great to see that. Just like you could see the ripple effect of everything that they had built and done. And I thought it was so cool.
What was this? I don't know about this.
So Chip and Joanna, what was the name of their show?
Well, now they have a lot of
Was
shows.
it House Hunters or
they
something?
even have a network now.
They have their own network
I don't watch any
now.
of these shows,
Right.
but
They would take these houses. They would build houses. It was just
they would flip houses.
They would flip
You know,
houses.
if-
It was something somebody already owned, and they wanted to make it better, or they wanted to, whatever the case was, renovate. And it just like one of them was their great grandmother's old, like 100-year-old house, and they didn't take away from the bones. And they didn't change, but they fixed it to where it was livable, and a lot of stuff was, it was very beautifully done every time. And what they ended up doing with their famousness was they reinvested into their community, and they built the silos. They bought the silos and turned them into like a bakery. And, and
They have a restaurant.
They have a restaurant,
everything.
and it's the coolest like downtown area. You should definitely take Mary Ann there one day. They have all kinds of stuff there, and it's family friendly. And it was one of the coolest. If you've never been, I don't know Chip and Joanna Gaines. I'm not plugging them, but it was really cool to see like the new restaurants that had come in and all this other stuff that had come in around their investment.
Well, that's what they did. They created a destination.
Right. Yes.
And in creating that destination, it brought in, tax dollars, and it brought in, other investors wanting to invest.
Yes.
So it just created, like a new city for them.
And I'm interested to hear your take because you've lived in South Louisiana, grew up in South Louisiana, and one of the primary things that I've noticed about this area, this city, is that we seem to kind of lack an identity in a lot of ways, and I think that is a big thing that holds us down because we don't have the kind of South Louisiana identity, and we don't have like an East Texas identity. We're kind of just here a little bit.
We really do have an identity, right? We do. We're like Fisherman's Paradise. We're lumber. We're Toledo Bend. It just somehow needs to be represented in order to be a draw.
But Toledo Bend's over there. The lumber
but
is
not that far. Nothing.
Yeah, right.
Nothing is far.
Right.
So it's just a matter of figuring out how to bring, a love to those types.
But how do we get a hyper local identity? You know what I mean? Because Toledo Bend doesn't pay our tax dollars necessarily. There's some
they
trickle,
don't pay our tax
trickle
dollars,
down.
but if someone stays in a hotel here on their way to Toledo Bend, if someone is shopping at Walmart on their way to Toledo Bend, because between here and there, there's not much.
Right.
So this can be,
Are you talking about like? Okay, so Rain is like Frog City. Is that like what you're talking about? Like
what now?
The city of Rain, little bitty city down in South
Rain, Louisiana. Okay.
There's like Frog City. Is that kind of like what you're talking about, like a hyper local identity?
Yeah, something. It may be that we have an identity, but we maybe we just need to lean into it more. You know what I mean?
Because we're known for lumber, right?
That's correct.
So,
But we don't even have the lumber. We have, DeRitter's getting all the lumber money.
but we can't.
Don't get me started on that.
Right. I
Please
know.
don't get
And
me
that was
started
something
on
I hadn't
that.
noticed
money.
until recently. But
So Beauregard is the number one producer of timber in the state, and we are number two. So that is, and I don't know if people know that or not, but that is truly where the Forestry Festival came from, and I don't know why we don't lean into that more. And I met a girl. This will tell you how passionate I am about that. I met this girl down in Baton Rouge, and we met through insurance. And I was down in Baton Rouge advocating against more policies to increase commercial trucking insurance because we're already paying out the nose. And we're, so anyway, she is with the Loggers Association. And her daddy is like a fourth generation logger. I mean, this is like logging is family business. She's from Wynn Parish. She had this pine cone necklace. And I don't know where she got it from. And I have been obsessed with finding that necklace because I think that's the identity we need to lean into. But we as a public have also got to stop talking bad about our community. We have to. And it is a virus. It is a cancer on Facebook, Leesville, all that stuff. And I hate it when people say that. I hate it because it's like, okay, well, you hate so much, then just move. DeRitter's literally right there. Just go away. It's so bad because you're like, those people are not contributing to trying to help. They're not putting in any man hours and they're only fussing about what's wrong, which again, I will tell you, I used to fuss. And then it's like, you get involved and it's like, wow, this is really hard, and then it's hard to hear the people who don't want to help put everything down that you're trying to do.
Yeah. And I love like the is it King of the Hill? Is the name of the drag racing?
King of the Block.
King of the Block. Yeah. King of the Hill. I'm thinking of the show. Great show. Anyway. And I love stuff like that. In Houston we had Cars and Coffee and,
we have Cars and Coffee here too.
Yeah, but
so I don't think it's as big.
No,
it's not Houston, but they did make
a little different.
It's a little different.
But the point is that I love that because you have people coming in, from hours away
Yes. Right.
to do this, and some people have been critical that you shut down the road. I have news for people about that. The roads get shut down in other cities all the time for events, and if there's an alternate route, it's not that big of a deal. Wouldn't you rather kind of an event happen and something be contributing to that that local identity?
Well, and if y'all don't know about King of the Block, and we're going to have one on Saturday, April the 4th, I think, or April the 5th, I think it is. And if y'all haven't been, there are people coming from Lafayette.
Yeah,
there are people coming
it's
from
crowded.
Houston. I mean, there are people, we have 3 McLarens that drive in regularly from Houston, and that's a huge deal. And I want it to keep growing. Obviously I have to leave it up to the administration that's voted in next to allow it to keep going. I want it to keep growing. And maybe when we get enough money to build a drag strip and then we don't do it on the street anymore. That's where these little things start and then they grow and they grow and they grow,
It's like Baytown, Texas. I mean, that's Royal Purple Drag Strip. Their identity is drag racing.
That's correct. And no, we cannot use the airport. The airport is actually used and the FAA will get really upset.
Yeah.
So,
my dad and I had a long conversation
There's a
about
lot
that.
of roads
We
that
were
they
just
can use.
brainstorming,
and it would be, I would love to be able to take that event and make it big, make it huge.
They can find a road.
Yeah.
There's plenty of locations around here that they can do that.
I would like to take our farm road. My parents will not let me do this, surprisingly, but I would like to take our farm
parents.
road. Yeah, I'd like to take our farm road because we paved, just under a mile, maybe a little over a mile up and around, and back. I would like to do like a Goodwood Festival of Speed. Do y'all know about this Goodwood Festival of Speed in Goodwood, England? It's for car people. It's I don't know, one of the most popular events every year. It's really cool. You should go watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, I will.
They have, I mean, the coolest classic cars, old, Formula One racers and all of that. And it's a hill climb event. So it's just like that. It's someone's old driveway, except it's like a palace or something. It's the Duke or whatever of England's driveway. But anyway, the point is they race the cars up the hill, and whoever gets, to the end the first, wins.
Oh.
It's a time trial, and it's really neat.
I mean, it's all doable.
Yeah, it's all doable.
It's just an event.
I'd love to do a hill climb.
Well, there you go.
Event,
You're in charge of doing that event.
She was like, delegated.
Yeah,
I will allow it. Well, and I think you're right. I think we do need to lean in more to our identity. Because we're also a train hub. That's a big thing around here. And I as someone that lives a block from the train, I get that it's noisy, but that's that is the most reliable form of shipment and commerce in the United States of America, in the contiguous United States of America. So the rail cars are really, really like it's a big deal for us to have a hub here.
Look, I wish that we had a passenger train that would go all the way from Lake Charles to Shreveport, so we wouldn't be such a transportation desert. And if you don't have a car, you can't get anywhere.
That's a big
fabulous?
thing. Yeah, that's a big thing. Is public transportation, and I know it's a problem. I do. I know it's a problem. I don't know how to tackle it fiscally, because it's expensive. But I know it's a problem.
The tracks are there.
Yeah,
the trains are there.
So what do you see as like? And as a subset of that, I want to ask you what's holding back. You said the tracks are there. I'm curious why. Like,
I mean, is it ever even a conversation? Has someone ever gone to the
but I guess
radio station? I mean, the train station to have the conversation.
Yeah, and so what would be like the top 3,
Ooh, that was on my list.
That you see facing this area? Because I don't know, to me personally, if public transportation would make that cut, but yeah, I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, if you start out with public transportation, you can get a person that wants to live here in the city of Leesville, because we need to grow our population. So they can live here and travel,
Get you on the mic a little closer.
And travel to like different locations. So it gets rid of that issue of transportation, because we want more people to live inside of Leesville. We have got to get the population up in order to be able to get the business in.
But don't you feel like that we're pretty far away from a population that would population number where it would be kind of cost effective to spend a bunch of time and money on public transportation? Or maybe I'm just not thinking about it creatively enough.
So our population is obviously an issue. We're at a large risk for becoming a town. So I mean, I don't think presently, I think the population number is a problem, because we don't have enough to justify public transportation being funded by the city. But it's like a juxtaposition that we're in right now. We're in a very hard crossroads, because, and I'm going to get so much hate for this, there could be a lot of problem solved if we could annex out, just a little bit outside the city limits to help boost the population. But, and that's a whole different ball of wax. It's a whole different, and I understand, I get it. I know what the grievances are. But in order for us to be able to have things, we have to have the population.
Right.
And if we don't have the population, you can fuss about it on Facebook all you want. It's not going to change it. Right. When these places want to come in, this is the mile radius that they go in. And if you ain't in it, you ain't in it. And they don't want to come here. So y'all can holler about Chick-fil-A all you want to, and unless the franchisee opens one, Chick-fil-A is not coming here, because we only have like 5,300 people inside the city limits.
Yeah. And I was going to ask y'all about that, and I should have done some research on this, but is it the norm that people outside of the city limits, like, is there normally a metropolitan area or somewhere that qualifies you to vote? Because I think if you have an interest, if you have any sort of business interest in the city,
I have had those discussions.
That you should be able to vote.
A very big complaint.
It's absolutely insane that I can't vote in this election because I live on West Hawthorne Road.
Let me annex you. You want me to annex you? I'll annex you.
I want you to annex me. And I'm now.
Listen, I'm a big advocate for this, and I know that I'm going to get flack about it. I don't want to come in and tell you can't burn on your property or shoot your armadillos or all that. That's not what I want.
And I don't want crazy taxes.
Well, your property tax doesn't increase. It does not increase. All it does is what you were normally paying is that a portion of that comes away from the police jury, and obviously those are conversations that we'll have to have with the police jury and all that. But we have to figure out a way to get the population numbers up. We have to figure it out, and I'm not telling you to live smack in the middle of Leesville. I know what people are going to say, but the problem is that we have. When you say businesses, right? If I owned my business that I own now, but I didn't live inside the city, yes, I feel like I should get a say-so. Do I think the CEO of Walmart should get a say-so? Absolutely not. So you have to, that's the other side of it. You can't just put that blanket on it. Like, because I've had these conversations. How do we fix this? How do we, what does that look like? Because yes, they have a vested interest in the city. So my suggestion is, we need to expand the city limits somehow, some way.
And I'll take it further. I would say that I would put an end to the zigzag, you want gerrymandering that we're doing. Yes, it should be a square or a rectangle or some four-sided geometry.
We want to annex in where there are houses.
Well, a lot of times,
to annex and there's just a big farm with one person living on that property. We have to get areas that have a large population of houses.
Correct. And a lot of times what will happen is on those little lines, it's a road. They have used a road for a boundary, and that's where it goes up to. And I'll be the first to tell you, I have property outside the city limits, just outside the city limits. And if someday I build on that property, I'm not inside the city limits anymore, but I'm willing to be annexed. I'm completely willing to go put up the money and be annexed, on that property. It does not bother me a bit, but we have to understand that as a public, we're being counterproductive to that problem. Yes, there is a population loss problem. There's a problem, and I get it. You want to live out in the country. I got it. Yeah. But I think if we want to grow, we're going to have to, we're not growing because people are moving here. So if we want to grow, we're going to have to start with ourselves first. So we're going to have to condense in, squeeze in and tough it out and get through
development.
Yeah. We're going to have to do that and then go up. I think that's the way it has to happen. And then they don't, I get it. I know there's probably people going to be listening and be like, screw you. I don't want to be in the city of Leesville. I get it. I'm not hating.
That's the only way it'll grow.
But it's right now, that's the solution to the problem. Because if we become a town, we have a problem.
We have a real big problem then.
We lose.
Tell me about this, because
you lose grant opportunities. You lose funding for your officers. So you're going to have to decrease your police force.
We're at risk of downgrading to a town.
A town instead of a city.
I thought you were saying that the population was growing. Of course, it's not growing.
No, we're at risk. And the other side of that is too that we may not have accurate numbers because people don't want to fill out the census. Yeah. So we really don't know. We really don't know the actual numbers, and it sucks that it goes off the censuses. You and I and everybody in this room and anybody that's listening or in the parish knows that Leesville is the hub of the parish. But unfortunately, when businesses come here, they don't care about the 44,000 residents that are coming to, Leesville, or 30,000. I'm not saying all 44 are coming to Walmart.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that we may not have an accurate count of how many people we have because of the census? Is that the only thing we can use?
That's correct. That's the only thing they use.
We can't use the SQL database. I hope there's the SQL database of everyone who has a water meter. I mean,
that has also decreased significantly in the past several years.
How many individuals live
are in the house?
Household. That just tells you that there's a meter at that house. There can be 6 people living in there.
Correct.
We need to know 6. We don't need to know 1.
Yeah, that's the. And now, like I said, it's a crossroads, and I don't know what the solution is. I'm not telling everybody I want to annex your property. I get that it's going to be a fight, and that it's an unpopular opinion, but it is an opinion. And I think that it has to be talked about at some time, and I hate that. I hate that that's even something I have to bring up. But we're losing population, and in order to have the things that people want, we got to increase our numbers. And I don't know if you got better ideas. Please let me know.
Well, look, I don't know about the population thing. If it has to be a census-driven thing for our designation as a city, town, whatever, but for other things, I do think we should explore what kind of methods are acceptable for things like businesses coming in. Like we've talked about these bigger,
They ask the
chains
first
or
thing
restaurants.
they
or
That's
ask.
the first thing they ask.
That's the
right.
first thing
But
they
I
ask
wonder if
for.
they'll accept data other than census data.
Well,
because,
we have tried.
right. But
I mean, they need to know that there's a population there that's going
Right.
to support their business.
Right.
If they move to a town with one person, grand opening, grand closing. I mean, you have to have, and they've already done the research. They know how large the population needs to be.
they know what. Right.
Be able to sustain that business. And if it's a business, say Starbucks, let's go for the heavy duty. You're not going to go and buy Starbucks 3 times a day, every day in order to sustain that business.
Right.
So they need a large population to
Correct.
sustain a business, because that's what happens here. They'll open up a business, and 3 months, and they're packed. Everybody in town wants to be there. Everybody wants to test it out, see what's happening. 3 months later, you pass by there's no one there. So they're no longer sustaining that business.
Right. But my point is, like, if they're then using census data or running their own population survey that maybe doesn't get a lot of engagement, because if you're not filling out the census, you're probably not filling out this survey.
That's correct.
Then we need to use as a database administrator, like we should have tons of data points that we can pull together, or if we don't, we need to set that up. Because like we should have anything that is a city service or whatever should all be in several databases or one master database that we can pull from and say, okay, this is very likely our actual population, because we can pull from water.
Correct.
We could pull from what I don't. Can you access like driver's license DMV information? That's probably
That's proprietary
state
information.
thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that surely a city could request that sort of information from the state and get a data dump or something.
Yeah, but then what about the people that
you need?
aren't drivers?
Well, no. But you're cross-referencing all of this data.
Oh, yeah.
So when it goes
okay.
into this relational database, then you can match these things up and say, okay, here's our actual population to a much higher degree of accuracy than
Correct. And normally their little circle that they go inside does not include Fort Polk because it's out there. So that's also a factor that works against us. And then obviously, there's people all over there. We have a large parish. There's people everywhere. We're just scattered out because it's rural, so we don't get anything because we just don't have the numbers, but again, that's the first thing they ask for. Now, if they were to sit down and talk to Philip like we did, he'll tell you when the Walmart that is here was never designed to do that much volume. So that tells you how much there is a population here. So that Walmart was never designed, and it's like a special store that you get chosen to be in charge of because it was never designed to do that much volume. So
the way you solve that is through technology.
So, I mean, does
100%. You have to get the right numbers. You have to
That's
get
correct.
the correct statistics for this entire
So
city.
if you get elected, I'm going to be holding you to that. I better see.
Okay.
I better see that as a top initiative.
So then I have 2 positions. I'll be a
right.
senior database administrator and a mayor.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
100%. We want you to bring your experience, because I do think that is incredibly valuable
It is
experience
valuable.
to bring
That
to
is
the
the
table.
showstopper in anything that gets brought to the city.
Yeah.
And they keep saying, 5,000, maybe 5,000. We're lower than
And
that.
and we
so
don't
no
know.
one really knows what
Yeah.
those numbers are. And they should.
Yep.
Well, and a lot of people admitted, listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't trust the government. Don't trust the government, won't fill out the census. So that's just...
Yeah.
I got news for them. if you have a cell phone, if you have been on the internet, if you have a Facebook account, there are many databases spread across many private companies that already have your data, and they are selling it to others to establish an even bigger database of
That's
data.
correct.
Your data is already there. It doesn't matter if you fill the census out or not. They know everything about you.
So I was working at 911 one time, and this is for all of our conspiracy theorists, okay? I was working at 911. I worked there for 5 years. And I get a phone call one time, and they're like, this is so-and-so. It's on the backup line. It's not on 911 line. And they're like, this is so-and-so with the Facebook enforcement, I don't know, law enforcement division or something. Well, I laughed. Because I was like, so you're telling me you're the Facebook police? I thought it was a prank call, because those happen a lot at a 911 office. And she did not laugh. And she was like, this is what I have, blah, blah, blah. I need your email. I need to send you this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, are you going to hack my email? You know, like I'm still not taking her serious. And she was like, no, ma'am. And she was like, my badge number is blah, blah, blah. You know, I know this is the coordinates. And when she gave me the coordinates for what they had picked up on a live stream, I knew she was not kidding. Wow. And I was like, okay. So, and if I logged into my Facebook, she sent me these links, and I don't know how to explain this because I'm not a technology person. It was like I was on the other side of this guy's Facebook, and I don't know how to explain that. She sends me these links to click on, and I'm not looking at it from the perspective of looking at his Facebook. I'm looking at it from the inside. I can see when he went live, where he went live from. I can see everything. Like it was.
Wait, who is this again?
Facebook.
No. Oh, you were on the phone with a Facebook.
I was on the phone with Facebook has a law enforcement division, and a guy had gone live with guns, threatening to, you know, do some really heinous activity. And I'm looking at this from like a tech backroom perspective at his account. I can see everything. And I was like, what have they sent me? You know, like, and that's real. That is a real thing. And I was able to pinpoint. She was like, I need to know the address of this location, and I need you to tell me when you've activated SWAT. And I was like, wow, we don't have SWAT. Like, what do you mean? So like, I crossed the coordinates, did my 911 operator thing, you know, sent the police out there. We got that taken care of. But just to know what they could see on the other side, where he had been, what times, when he had returned, like all of that stuff, I could see it. And I literally went home. That was at the end of my shift. And I was like, Facebook police is real. Like I was telling everybody, I was like, it's real and they can see everything.
Well, Facebook's one of the worst offenders because Mark Zuckerberg, I don't generally hop on like the billionaire hate train. I mean, like I like Elon Musk a lot. And, you know, but Mark Zuckerberg, he just, his repeated disregard for data privacy, it's really worrisome. Facebook is probably the worst offender if you're worried about your data privacy. And also, it does not help you to stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and say, I'm going to just go further away from technology. Unless you cut off completely and, you know, all of that, you're doing yourself a disservice because, I mean, I know when I like upgraded our network infrastructure here and I went from like a normal router to like this Ubiquiti, you know, Unify stack that I have, which is like ever expanding, but I can get on there and see every flow, like every request that any of my devices make to anywhere. And you would not believe some of these like just IoT devices that you have that if you have something connect to your Wi-Fi network, I mean, smart TVs, anything you connect, I mean, it's sending out to China to what, you know, and not all of these are bad flows. There's, you know, data centers all over the world that serve various purposes.
Right.
But yeah, it's not helping you to bury your head in the sand. And honestly, I would hate to do a cybersecurity audit of like the city of Leesville. And I think that we probably should have that done because as a database administrator, you know, I'm sure very aware of all of the different ways. Man, SQL injection would like blow your mind about like what you can do to websites. Like you can, if the city of Leesville has, they definitely have a SQL database or something to feed different parts of the website. But if that's written poorly, there might be a search field or something on that page that if you knew what you were doing, and a lot of people do, they can hit something in that search bar. And if it's not coded properly in the back end, you can extract every piece of data from that database and then exploit it. And
that is so scary.
Yeah. It's
well,
like
and I want to be clear about what I said about the Facebook. They were contacting the proper authorities. They contacted the police department. I was doing my job. They were doing their job to get somebody help that needed some much needed mental help. But it was not, I was not prepared for the amount of data like that they had that I could see. They sent it to a secure location. You know, all of this is law enforcement, but just the sheer fact that they had it. And I was just like, what am I looking at right now? You know, like, and it was like I call it looking at the back side of the mirror. So you're looking at something, but from the other side, you know, and I was just like, oh my God.
Well, I think we should have regulation on like, okay, so I worked at this company called Avid Exchange before, I did this, but I was a software engineer there. We were a publicly traded company. We actually went private again last year. Anyway, but we were a financial services company. We did like automated accounts payable software and stuff like that. And in the financial sector, all of that data is super regulated. So if I as a software engineer wanted to go in and, make a SQL call to our databases and get someone's bank account information, you could not do that. Like there's a separate, way deeper layer of database where all of that information is encrypted. So you could see like an encrypted string, that means nothing, but like, I almost think that we need something like that we have to hold these tech companies and social media companies to some sort of standard like that so that they can't exploit our data to this degree.
I mean, it depends on the data that's being stored.
Right.
When I worked on Fort Polk, I had to have a secret clearance because of the data that's being stored. So if there's something on the city's website that's not, going to be harmful if retrieved.
I think it's all public information.
Yeah. So,
or are you talking about their
just saying,
operating database?
No, I'm just saying like, just on the kind of side topic we're on about, social media and your data being collected, like social media, I think should have some sort of regulations around it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the city's databases or work that, and I could see some people being alarmists and saying, "Oh, they want to make a database about
all of my information."
Yeah, no, there's
I definitely
ways,
don't think they're doing that.
yeah, and about what we're talking about specifically, like there are ways to aggregate data for uses like this that do not expose you personally, and that are in ways that you are a good steward of people's data.
Correct.
And I'm sure
there needs to be an incentive, in order for the citizens to want to provide their information in order to help the city with the population. They want to be counted. Yeah. So if there's some type of, they
don't even have to provide their data. I mean, there's ways that we can, pull from existing data sources.
I'm address so-and-so and I have 4 people living here.
Right.
There needs to be some, simplicity to collecting the numbers in the city.
Yeah.
So
and that could be another text message thing. Anybody that has a water meter, right? Well, and we can't do that though because there's people on city water that live outside city limits.
Well, I would make it as non-invasive as possible.
Within the city limits.
First, we should see what data points can come together because it's very likely that there are data points that exist already that will give us a very complete picture after kind of filtering out, things. Well, we could probably arrive at a much more accurate number of population with the data we already have. It's just a matter of consolidating those together because you might have many disparate sources.
Yeah.
Of data.
I think y'all are right. It would just take somebody far smarter than me. I'm not smart in that way. I'm smart in other ways, but definitely not that way.
Or here's another idea. We can ask Facebook. We can say, hey, because Facebook, I guarantee you, knows exactly how many people live.
Like on Facebook itself?
Oh, you mean like ask?
I mean, look.
Well,
AI?
okay, but that
Apple,
brings...
I'll give you an example. Apple, okay, and we were just talking about this before the show a little bit too, but Apple has this feature where they want you to be able to kind of get a rough location on your phone if you have no GPS, you have no cell signal, and you're not connected to Wi-Fi. They would like you to still be able to kind of get a rough location. There are many reasons for that. I don't know why they're building this, but for a while, they have had it such that when your phone, because your phone is always looking out, scanning for Wi-Fi networks and seeing what's around, right? And so the routers, on the flip side of that, kind of advertise, say, hey, I'm this Wi-Fi router, and they have what's called a MAC address, and it's a unique identifier, kind of like your social security number. It's like, this is what I am. And it's burned into the ROM of the device in I think most cases, meaning it can't be changed, it can't be altered. And there are many reasons you can think of that. If someone were going to perpetrate a terrible cybersecurity attack, you'd want to know what device.
You want to know what device is on it. Yeah.
Now there are ways around that, but anyway.
Yeah, so don't give them any ideas.
Your iPhone, or it doesn't have to be if you have an iPhone necessarily, but all iPhones are constantly scanning for those Wi-Fi networks, and they send the physical location of like where you're at when you detect those to Apple. Okay. And then even if you get near someone else's iPhone, they're transferring information, back to Apple. And there's an API that turns out like there's a public facing API that you can hit if it can be exploited basically to kind of track where your Wi-Fi router is, and if it moves, you can potentially tell where someone went and all that. So there was this big kind of exposition on that, but like the whole point of that is like Facebook, Apple, these companies have many endeavors, not just Facebook. They're collecting data from a ton of different sources. So like, absolutely, you don't have to have a Facebook account for Meta to know where you live. Like,
yeah,
it would blow your mind how many data points and they're very good at kind of putting these disparate data sources together to form a picture. That's the real key. I mean, I've done a lot of data analysis and stuff in my field, and I was a finance major, but it would blow your mind the things that you can infer based on seemingly unrelated data points.
So we asked a question earlier, and I don't think we let Lafonda answer. So if you were elected today, what would be your top 3 priorities?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't even be a top 3. I mean, it should be a top 300, right? Because everything can work simultaneously. Mm-hmm. It's just important to move forward. Yeah. With a lot of things that organizations have already done the work, right? They've already paid, professionals to provide information, to move forward with certain things. It's time now to like get rid of the fear, that the citizens have, and just step out on faith and just start making some of these projects happen. They've done the work. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, all of these organizations, went to that summit, and, they just have so many companies out there that have already done the work. They've already done the research. They've already put up the money. I mean, like, let's figure out what we as a city want to move forward with.
Right.
And it shouldn't just be 3, right? What I mean? Like
I always hate when they're like, what are you going to do your first 100 days? Like, I don't have any idea. I don't know what they're doing right now. But like for me, from the outside looking in, one of my biggest concerns, and has been since I ran the first time, is the amount of homeless people we have. Unhoused, however it is, I'm supposed to say that. Mm-hmm. That actually, I did not know how bad it was until I found out.
Bad. I mean, they live out in the woods, behind, some of these businesses, and I mean, it's just not a safe environment for them. And why we, as a small community, can't, provide them with some type of support. I mean, again, that's fear. They think, oh, they're on drugs. Oh, they're dangerous. Oh, they're, whatever. But still,
you don't
not provide,
right,
because you're fearful of what, that individual is capable of.
The flip side of that is that we have no resources, and this is not any one person's fault, I don't think any administration's fault, because I myself do not know where to begin with that. We have no resources for any type of drug rehabilitation program, because what happens is, as a family member of somebody that has battled addiction, I feel quite versed on what I'm about to say, so I don't expect anybody to come at me sideways. They get arrested, they dry out, they bail out, they go right back to where they were at. There's no like halfway house. There's no, and I don't know how to make that stuff happen. I know that it could be funded if we had more funding.
Right. I mean, everything is funding, right? Everything is money.
It is money.
You have to start out with
money.
Money.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people think, oh, we all got a $19 million surplus. I can promise you 10 road projects will eat that up. Not even 10, maybe 9. 9 good extensive water and road projects, maybe 5, and it's gone. And it is very important to have a surplus so that you can apply for grants to get match funds. Because people that have match funds for however much the grant is get prioritized on the grant list.
Right.
So that's important.
So do you think that almost it's like a kind of I hate to say a clerical situation, but a lot of it is like clerical inefficiencies or clerical shortcomings that I think are responsible for a lot of the things. It's like, are you kind of saying like we need to sort out the kind of day-to-day minutia that maybe holds us back, and then the rest will sort of take care of itself in some situations? I mean, I know that some aren't.
I mean, I'm not going to pinpoint that on clerical. I'm going to pinpoint that on not being approved to move forward with a lot of the projects. I mean, there's investors, that's maybe willing to open up a homeless shelter. There's a guy that I know, he wanted to open up a homeless shelter with pods, just so they can come in, have a place to rest, have a, air conditioner attached to it. But the city didn't even want to hear anything about that. He pushed and pushed and pushed, and he had investors, that was willing to give, hundreds of thousands of dollars for this project. And then when you go and talk to a certain, part of the city in order to be able to figure out how to move forward with that, they don't assist. So then that individual just backs off and is like, oh, the city, is not supporting the homeless, even though he was ready to move forward with that plan.
So from a technical aspect, and this is just me spitballing with you, what does that look like though? Because for me, to accept the liability of a homeless shelter it's a huge liability. That's a huge liability, because we used to have a homeless shelter, and I want to say it's a huge liability then, which is why we don't have it anymore. Right. Because you could.
Well, was it a women's shelter or
no?
It
was a homeless shelter.
Okay.
So, and then when you do that, because I don't want to frame this to where it makes it look like I'm trying to discriminate against anybody, because I'm not. But you can't put active drug addicts in. You don't want to turn them away, but you also can't put them in the same place as a woman with her children that has escaped domestic violence or whatever the situation may be. So that's like, for me, that's the liability I'm talking about. Like how does one take that on without putting themselves in a position where they could quite possibly be sued, and it's hard. It's hard to navigate that, because as someone who has been around and loved very many, I shouldn't say very many, but a few addicts, they're not rational. But you also don't want them sleeping in the cold. I don't want that.
So was that the reasoning that the city gave, or did you find out the reasoning in that case? Just curious of why they didn't entertain it.
They did not have a move forward plan for this person. This person was interested in putting it in a certain area, and they were told, no, you can't put it in this area. So I mean, how many times are you going to call the city about wanting to start a certain something,
right? And
they keep, giving the negative part of that, like, when do you give up? I would never give up. I mean, I would, build a building, put it up, and then, get the flack after. But, individuals that want to do it correctly, you have to get approval from the city for certain things.
Do they assume the responsibility for the shelter at that point? Like, is it their shelter? Because
it was a shelter that he wants to build. Like, he needed to know, like, where.
After it's done, though, who does it belong to?
Yeah, is this private? This is privately funded, I assume.
Yeah, it would belong to the LLC that gets established.
And I guess
in order to,
Where did they want to put this?
Well,
if you can say,
I probably can't say.
Okay,
because
it's fine.
Would. Yeah.
I don't want to give away proprietary information.
They wanted to put it inside of the city limits, but here's the deal: when you put something like that in the city limits, they don't want to see it. Right?
Okay, but then the other side of that argument is, if you have people that do not have a home and do not have transportation, it has to be centrally located so that they can get to the things that they need.
Correct.
So I see the crossroads there. Right. Like, it's like, okay, well, we don't want this here, but also when you're trying to help people back up on their feet, we need to put it in a position where if they can get a job at Whataburger, they can walk there.
If they need to go to the grocery store, they can walk there. When they need to go to CVS for medication, they can walk there. It has to be, in close proximity of everything that they need.
And I don't think there is I don't know what the happy medium is there, because I can see every different side to that situation. So what's the happy medium? Like what is the solution to that? And I guess it would take a group of people sitting down and just hashing it out. And
it would take a group of people who have already done the homework.
Yeah.
Who already want to move forward with that, who already want to come to the city and say, where can I, where are you going to approve me putting this?
Right. And that makes so much sense. And again, you're not going to have everybody agree with that. But at the end of the day, every liability, every personal opinion aside, I do not want to see people sleeping on benches at the Veterans Memorial next to the police jury, period.
Or at the museum.
I don't want to see it.
Or underneath the farmer's market
when I was
pavilion.
Yes.
They sleep wherever they can sleep.
It's so
because
sad.
There's not a place for them to sleep.
And we don't know why they're homeless, and it doesn't matter. It's not our business. When I was doing the 75 hard, I ran into that a lot because I walk downtown a lot. And I remember I was coming home and I was trying to walk really fast because I could see that the weather was moving in. And one of our homeless ladies was asleep, passed smooth out on that concrete bench. My first thought was, how has she slept on that concrete bench all night? And then my second thought was, even though she has obvious mental incapabilities, I don't want to startle her because it's 6 o'clock in the morning and she's known to, cause a ruckus, but she's not mentally stable, so it's like, but she's still a person and she's somebody's kid, somebody's, sister, mother, aunt, whatever the case may be, so I gently went over there because it's dark and I was like, hey baby, I'm talking to her and she opens her eyes and I was like, don't want to bother you. Just wanted you to know that it's lightning. I don't want anything to happen to you. Maybe move under the awning at the police jury, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I think we're dehumanizing people. And I think we have to stop doing that because I don't know what the situation is.
Right.
I just know I don't want her sleeping on a concrete bench. And I hate the fact that we have to consider liabilities and what they may or may not be on or what they need to be on that they can't afford, because all of those things come into play.
And it's not the city that's going to have to navigate through all of that. An organization wants to come in to navigate that. They want to, they want to raise funds and pay the insurance and,
I think as long as it's not a government liability, like if we're not trying to put it on one of any of the local governments, not just the city. I think it's doable.
That's like a huge blessing, isn't it? Like a huge opportunity that a private company would want to come in and handle this. Where, like you're saying, there's no involvement. There really is no excuse in my mind. Now, I do see the location thing, like it would need to be in the right location for all of the reasons that we talked about. Right. But also, it seems like the city should do everything in its power to work with this, to have this person come in and do this. I do think that the root cause of that, whether it be, drugs or losing your job or whatever, is tied to the biggest issue in my mind is our growth. Right. We've talked about declining population. First, we need to count it properly, right? But how do we then grow it? Okay, so after we're done counting it, how are we going to get businesses to come or have the people that are here start businesses and create these stable jobs and move toward industries that are more future proof? That's where my mind is, and
industry is where it starts, though.
Yeah, and
I don't think people understand that.
Well, but also and I wanted to shed a little bit of light on what I said earlier about the clerical thing.
Okay.
So I've come to realize that a lot of the things, a lot of the reason for the things that we don't get are like boring clerical or just disorganization. It's not so much necessarily, this happens too. Corruption happens too. There's, things going on behind the scenes sometimes, but the vast majority of the time, it's because groups are disorganized or they have clerical inefficiencies that mean that they can't operate as effectively as they should.
That's correct. And it's not always corruption. It's not all of that. Right. But I think a lot of people misunderstand that retail comes after industry. And we have to, have some sort of thriving industry, whatever that looks like in the future. But we do have to have that, and they're like, oh, well, what about Lake Charles? Okay, well, Lake Charles got oil everywhere. They have oil refineries. That's why there's so much, production there. And, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not knocking Alexandria at all. I don't know what's happened in Alexandria. I went the other day for the first time in several years, and I was like, what has happened over here? Because Lake Charles is so much nicer. And I'm sure there's people in Calcasieu that are like, no, it's not, But to me, it's like, okay, what did we do wrong over here? What has happened over here? Because it was just, I don't know. It just seemed like it was more dying. It seemed like it was dying, and I'm not sure how to phrase that. The mall has like 5 stores in it. And every store that's not in the mall, which was fine. I don't mind driving around. Disorganization, stuff that's not put together, just in disarray everywhere. And I'm just like, what is happening? It was the same with Academy. And Academy is a huge store. So I don't know if did their industry move out? I don't know what their industry was. I'm not from Rapides Parish, but I'm not sure exactly. And it could just be an overall morale and people problem. I'm not really sure what it is, but it just really
it's been a crime problem for a while.
And
so when people are fearful, that's a problem.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and maybe that's what's contributing to economic. I don't know what Alexandria's economic outlook is, but I would venture to say it's probably better than ours. So what is our thing here? How are you, if elected, how are you going to spur on what we all agree is
definitely
necessary?
We need to get the organizations together. We need to figure out who is as close as possible to getting things done. Whether they know what industry they already want to come in and who's ready to come in, and to identify, what businesses want to come in and are ready to come in. And it's just been, just a block, from the city, or who wants to buy properties in order to build businesses, who wants to buy properties to build houses, but it just all needs to be done, on the interior of Leesville.
Well, I think,
and in a way that doesn't sell us out. We need to make sure that we negotiate good deals with these
Correct.
companies coming in,
Correct.
Because we don't want to just become some corporate sellout town that,
correct.
Right.
But we do want to encourage growth where we can get it.
Right. And we want to encourage our property owners, to maybe let go of some of this property in order for businesses to come in.
What do you mean more specifically by that?
I'm just saying, say, for instance, they said 7 Brew when they came in. That was the only location that someone was willing to sell them in order for them to be located on that spot. They could have been, up and down 171 somewhere else. But a property owner has to be willing to sell that property to a business that wants to come in and actually wants to, buy that property. It's not like someone just wanting to come in and renting a building and, renovating it a bit and then moving there. If they're not successful, then they can move out. There's some companies that want to, actually buy that property.
And at the end of the day, I think, that's just a situation where it's tough. There's not much you can do about that, other than maybe we need to make some good strategic deals with people and make them a couple things where they're, I see, prime, what should be prime real estate, going down 171 in the middle of Leesville. That's just abandoned and has been abandoned for so long.
Right.
And, not talking about, eminent domain or something like that, but the city government can absolutely make an effort to negotiate with those property owners and see what the holdup is and try to make them a deal they can't refuse.
Well,
right.
A lot of times what I've noticed recently is and maybe it's a lack of information. I don't really know how to bridge the gap there. And I think we've talked about that before. I've seen an uptick on social media about, oh, well, they gave them this tax break, or they did this, or, they did a pilot program with them. And they're like, oh, you robbed the citizens to let these people come in here. And it was like, no, it was an incentive.
Correct.
Do you want the stuff here or not? Because they're going to go where people give them a good deal.
Right.
So if they do a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, then they still paid money. It was just a payment in lieu of taxes to give them a draw here, or if they gave them a discount on something, or, they signed a lease with them that you thought wasn't expensive, or we should have made more money. It was a draw to get them there. And then at the same time, those same people are like, well, we don't have anything here.
Yeah, it's capitalism. That is capitalism.
Right.
Like companies are actively, sorry, not companies, but cities, governments are actively competing for businesses to come. Okay.
Correct.
It's not.
Nobody's trying to screw you over. We're trying to get stuff here.
We got to compete with DeRitter. We got to compete with, all these other places, and DeRitter's winning a lot.
Right.
In
So like
many
if
cases.
Starbucks comes in and says, hey, DeRitter, what are you going to give me? And then we come in and we don't give them anything good. Guess where they're going? That's what happens.
And on a larger scale with Texas to Louisiana,
Yeah. I mean, that's
we don't have to get into some of that, but we keep denying a lot of this stuff. Well, guess what? They're going to go to Texas, and Texas is awesome. You go to Texas, it's awesome because I
have no complaints.
They
Zero.
make good deals. They get people to come in.
Texas is pro-business.
They are pro-business without being, just corporate shills in a lot of cases. They strike a nice balance. That's the important thing, right? You have to strike a good balance.
I mean, we have to provide them with options because like when I buy a house, okay, so it's on the market for X amount of dollars. And if I don't want to pay that, here comes the negotiation.
Yeah.
So we get to a point to where, I'll do this, you do this, and you just go back and forth until you just come to a happy medium and it moves forward.
I think it makes a big difference too, though, with the general population, and not that I'm talking bad about anybody. It makes a difference when you have worked for someone your whole life, or if you've ever run a business. And I think I find often that's kind of where the disconnect is, because maybe they don't have that experience. And I'm not saying they're less intelligent or anything like that. I think it's a matter of not understanding, how things operate. And, because if you think Walmart came in here and paid full dollar for everything, they did not do that. They got a lot of tax breaks to come here, but we needed a Walmart. I mean, like that's at the end of the day, everybody's hollering for a Target. You want a Target? Guess what? We're going to have to let Target get away with some stuff. We're going to have to give them some breaks. We're going to have to cut them a sweet deal. Like, that's how it works. Like, when you call to buy a car, where do you get it from? The best deal that you can get.
Right.
Whether it was at Hickson's or Benoit, you're going to one of them. And if they got the same vehicle and one of them's giving it to you for cheaper,
that's who you go with.
That's who you're going to go with.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with negotiating.
No.
In business. I mean, that's what business is about, right?
It's called incentives, and businesses get them often. I mean, it seems so easy to me, but I don't know, maybe just a civics thing where people don't understand.
Yeah, and so tell us about your negotiation experience.
Yeah,
as a database administrator, you probably, I wouldn't imagine that's the most negotiation heavy job, although there's plenty of internal team fighting or whatever.
I've had a whole lot more negotiations in the real estate world.
I was going to say,
and
that's
I've
where I
done
was
that
headed.
for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So I already know how to go after it. If I see a house for X amount of dollars, I can give an example, and this was on by my house. I bought a house for $65,000, and I sold it for $309,000. So like, you buy low, you fix it, and you sell high. So that's just all about that's about making money. Why are you in business if you're not going to make money? They're not going to come here to not make money.
Yeah.
So they want to come in, buy land, build a building, use a building, have a current property owner to fix the building for them. So that's less that they have to do. And they open the business. You want the business, help them to open up their business.
So in a room full of strong opinions, how do you go about navigating that and negotiating that? Like, let's just say, I'll throw out something. And this is a very hypothetical situation. This is not actually happening.
Not yet.
So, yeah. Well, we want to make an ordinance that you can't let your dog urinate on fire hydrants. That's not an actual thing. Okay? And there are people in the room who are all like, hey, you can't do anything about where dogs go pee, right? And that's you got 7 people, or in this case, because there's 7 people on the board, you got 5 people against you. And you're saying, hey, this is eating through the metal, it's eating through the paint, it's costing us money, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this is a hypothetical situation, but I don't want anybody to get mad. They get so mad and triggered on the internet. How do you navigate that, negotiate that, come to a peaceful agreement in a room full of what is usually strong opinions?
Well, first of all, you let everybody have a say, because that's where where they get, the burn, right? Is that they're not being heard. So let everybody give their opinion, give their synopsis of what will and will not happen, which usually when someone says something's going to happen, it'll never happen. The pee will never eat through the paint. The pee will never, rust
right.
Like they worry so much about something that would maybe happen versus just let the dog pee on the hydrant.
Right.
When the paint, fades, paint the hydrant again before it gets to the metal and to the,
Correct.
So, negotiate what the issue is and how everyone can win.
And that's like a lot of times it's the what ifs that kill us.
Yes.
It is literally.
You don't move forward because you're
what if
if
yourself to death. Yes.
Look, my daughter's an attorney. She what ifs me all the time.
Yeah. You're what ifing yourself to death. And that's the thing for me is it's like, it's probably offensive to say it, but there's the old saying, if a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass. It's just, you're what if a million things could go wrong. But if you would just look at it like at the way it should be looked at, a million things could go right. Like that's the way I'm always looking at stuff. I'm like, and it's everything worth having has a risk. Everything you do has a risk. Getting in your car and driving to work is a risk. Yes. Waking up and turning on the coffee pot is a risk. It's getting in the bathtub is one of the biggest risks you take every single day, and you have to do it. So I think I get drugged down by that too, because it's like, yeah, okay, what if? We can sit here and play this game all day, but until it happens, we don't know if it's going to happen.
Right.
And then if it does happen, we'll address it when. That's what we got lawyers for. That's kind of how you have to be about it.
While you're what ifing, nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening.
So that is where
it's
they
absolute
just need to get in their head. Nothing happens when you're just talking about it and what ifing every project to death. Like let's leap out and move forward.
Yeah, that's been something personally that I've had to kind of overcome to get more done, but also perfectionism is like, and I've told myself I've had to like,
nothing is perfect,
right?
There is even in writing code,
yeah,
you always have the beta version that you put out, and then you have to improve that and improve that and improve that.
Yeah, well, my mantra
but
has
you
had
have
to be
start with something,
right?
And then that way they test it. And they make, here's a problem. Oh, here's another problem. So as those problems happen, you fix them.
You don't know how many
quickly.
Right. You don't know how many times I've had to tell myself in here, like renovating this space. Yeah. Because my wife and I renovated this whole studio ourselves. We had no outside contractor come in. We did it all ourselves. Yeah. I've had to say perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yes,
I've had to tell myself that, because otherwise
it really is. And I tell people all the time, because people will be like, oh, well, I'm set in my ways and all this. And I'm like, okay, if you're not changing, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not growing.
Right.
And that's exactly, it's like, well, this is the way we've done it for 100 years. And, and I that's not my policy. I'm not saying that I want to contort to every weird way of the world. I'm not saying that. What I am saying though, is that stagnance is real. And even some of our elected officials that have tried to go out and seek things, it is just like, need to be clear about this too. No elected official brought 7 Brew here. They brought themselves here. But even that growth, people are mad about it. And I'm just like, oh, what is wrong with y'all? You know, like it's progress is great. Growth is great. We can't be mad that nothing ever comes here and then be mad at the thing that comes here. I'll never understand that mentality. So in these negotiations, when you're going through this stuff and we've what if something to death, and you said, well, if it happens, we get a lawyer. You know, that would probably be something I would say, not Lafonda.
Yeah,
but,
I wouldn't say
you
that.
know, I would. But how do you handle when you're wrong? Because that's been one of the biggest things for me to overcome.
Yeah, but why do you see it as wrong?
Well, okay, so if you end up being wrong in a situation, any situation, whether, you know, like when you're talking to people, because we're gonna get things wrong. I think
wrong is a strong word.
Well, and I think politicians get put on this thing where you can't ever be human. Mm-hmm. You're not ever supposed to mess up, you know, or you're not ever supposed to do anything wrong, or whether you knew it was wrong or not, you know, like, for instance, they'll say, well, you voted for this in 1998. Why are you not with it now? Okay, well, from 1998 to 2026 is a really long time. And I've probably changed my mind since then.
And a lot of other things have changed since then.
Right.
You know?
So when you're wrong in situations, you know, I've struggled with being like, hey, I'm sorry, I got this wrong. Or you're in those negotiations and you get heated or whatever. And maybe you probably don't lose your cool. But if you did, like, how do you handle being wrong?
I mean, it's not wrong. You know, it's an if then else statement. You know, if you do this, then this, else this. You know, like you try to, you know, take care of all the possibilities.
Right.
But at some point in time, you have to try to stop figuring out what might happen. And then you just move into, you know, doing something and seeing what is happening. And then you can, you know, like flex based off of that.
Right.
You know, like you don't just not do something for fear.
Right.
You know, you do it and then you can adjust. I mean, that's what life is. You know, today will be different from tomorrow, and the next day will be different from the next day.
Right.
So you just have to know how to navigate through life and adjust, you know, if there is an issue.
Right. And that's kind of...
So, but on a personal level, when you're wrong about something in daily life,
I try to not really be wrong. I
She's
mean,
like, I'm not.
That's a red flag. That's a red flag.
I don't have.
You're never wrong.
I don't have that in my brain. I don't have failure in my brain. Like, I mean, if I did
Failure's
have that,
different than
I would
being
have
wrong,
never like bought that historic building.
Right.
Because that thing sat there for 14 years with absolutely nothing happening to it.
Right.
They wanted me to buy that building without even going to the second and the third floor to see, you know, what condition it was in. But again, you know, you just have to step out on it. And someone called me and they said, look, you know, my mom passed away. I can sell it now. Can you buy it? And I'm like, you know, like not even it ever even being something that I had even, you know, thought about. Right. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. You know, like I'm on Friends of Leesville Main Street and we're all about renovating 3rd Street, bringing businesses to 3rd Street, you know, making the buildings look better.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not
I think
call
it's her
my
mindset.
local bank?
Yeah.
I think it's her mindset.
It is.
You have toxic positivity. I love it.
I do.
Toxic positivity.
But
do.
also being wrong doesn't mean that you failed. You
Right.
can be
No,
wrong
there's
and,
no
you know,
such thing as failure. You know, I mean, a person
No,
looks
about
at
that.
themselves as a failure. I mean, if you make an F on a test, I mean, maybe that's failure, but that's because you didn't study, you know? So,
Right.
so you have to prepare for everything it is that you do. You know,
Yeah.
you would have made an A if you would have studied. You would have made an F, so you wouldn't have failed.
I think what she's saying is that it's not necessarily getting it wrong. It was taking the risk.
Yes.
And seeing how it worked out.
But how do you respond to it?
To what?
Do you have the humility when you are wrong, because you're going to make mistakes and you are going to be wrong sometimes?
Well, and it may not even be that you think you're wrong. The public may think you're wrong.
Well, they can think that I'm
that's a
wrong.
different.
I mean, that's their opinion.
But in
Yeah.
situations in the past when you by your own admission have said, okay, I was wrong about that. How did you handle that?
That's what I'm saying. Like
You've
She's
never
like-
been wrong.
She's like, man, I'm just
typical software engineer mentality.
Yeah.
yes. There is always
Greg,
a
how many
solution.
times have you been
There's
wrong?
a solution for every single
Oh
thing.
man,
How many times have you been wrong, Greg?
how many times have I been wrong?
Yeah.
Oof.
He's like, man,
About
none.
what? Like, give me an example.
Never. Okay, lots. I've been wrong a lot.
Yeah,
No,
same.
don't look
Yeah.
at it as
No,
made
wrong.
mistakes.
Don't
Well,
look at it
okay,
as
so-
wrong.
Well, if you don't look at it as wrong, if you don't, if I'm blatantly wrong about something, and I don't, that's
Ginger, isn't it?
It's the
Yeah.
cat she wants in. Can I hear it on the?
Example.
I don't think I can hear it on the.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah. So I assume you have a spouse or
I had a spouse.
had a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm scared to ask.
Oh, ask away.
Now I'm scared to ask.
transparent.
I'm like, but in that relationship, when you were wrong about something, and don't say you were never wrong.
I mean, we can call him right now. We can call him right now. Like, okay, so, I got married,
Hey, baby.
life situations is what ends, like marriages. He was in the military, back and forth from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of that. So relationships get difficult. PTSD is real.
Yes.
It's a real thing. So it starts getting very difficult to live with a person whose personality has changed from when you first married them.
Right.
And then as adults, you have to make a decision that's what's best for the family. Is it best that we get a divorce and, you live here and I live here and then we still co-parent our kids. And that was the decision that we made. He lived right down the street in an apartment, and so he can be close to the kids.
Right.
But again, you just have to be an adult about it. And you
Right.
just have to, talk about it, discuss it. What is the best solution?
She really
And then
has toxic
as you're-
positivity.
I know she's doing the weave. She weaved it into.
I know you saw
Well,
me
like
like,
Galen will tell you
Yeah,
he's never
she's-
wrong. Galen will tell you he's never wrong, even when he is. But like in my situation, I've tried to grow from it, because I'd be like, no, I'm right, because I'm 100%, and then you learn and you're like, and then you got to eat crow, right? And it's like, hey, you were right, I was wrong, and it's specifically due to past traumas or whatever, something I carried over into a new relationship, there would be disagreements and things like that. And once I would reflect on it, I would be 100% in the wrong, 100%. I'm like, man, I should have probably communicated better, and it took me so long to learn how to navigate eating crow, without being, and now I'm a champ at it, and I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. That's not the way I meant that. And I apologize for coming off that way, whatever the case may be. And I do think that comes with maturity.
Definitely.
I think it comes with maturity because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have, I would have been stubborn about whatever, I'm right, doesn't matter. I would have been so stubborn and hard to deal with. Y'all pray for Galen because he's been through a lot of this with me. And, I do think that a lot of that comes with maturity. I really do.
It does.
I think
because it's communication.
it really
so
does.
It never has to get to that point.
Yes.
If you can identify that, oh, okay, we need to talk about something.
Yeah.
And then you talk about it. So it never gets to the, I guess, mentally where you're thinking that it's wrong. You just, as life is happening, you have to, like kind of negotiate through it all.
Right.
Because once you do get older and you realize you don't have,
You don't have it all figured out.
You don't have it figured out. You'll never have it perfect, and you're running out of time.
Yeah.
So you figure out what is important and what is not important. And you just, in order to find a peace and a happy place,
look.
it's just, you just have to communicate it all.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm so glad that you said it was for other reasons that you got divorced and that it was amicable because I thought for sure you're going to tell me that your ex-husband would say, oh, yeah, I divorced her because she never said she was wrong.
I'm telling you, you can call him right now and he'll say that. He'll say, nah, she was never wrong. It was me.
Oh, man. Well,
So
He's awesome, like I can call him right now. He'll drive 4 hours, because I'm like, oh my gosh, something something, is going on.
Right.
I'm like, I need to bring the 10-foot ladder from the first floor to the third floor. Like he'll drive 4 hours to just do like the simplest things because he's like, you're the mother of my kid. I need to make sure that, everything with you is good to go because we need you, so
Yeah.
He too.
And I think that comes with maturity too. It's a maturity and then because looking back now from 15 years ago, some of the stuff I had done before, I'm just like, oh, I could have handled that.
I did not plan on having Ginger in here.
She was scratching on the door, and I'm not going to make her stay in there. She's so cute. But I think so. From that, to spin further from that, because you would be, if elected, you would be mayor. How do you handle criticism? Because I struggle with that when you're automatically, just like I said earlier, the lady making the video, Governor Landry, why don't you do this, 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 and this? And it's like, okay, well, that's already a thing. That's why I didn't do it. How do you handle criticism, like from that perspective?
Is it criticism? I mean, if someone brings
toxic
something
positivity,
if someone
man,
brings
she's so great.
I know. if someone brings something to my attention, I'll give you an example. This lady came into the shop, and she was like, "If you're a mayor, you need to clean up this city." And I'm like, okay. I said, well, what district do you live in? What area are you saying needs to be cleaned up? Because we just really need to narrow down what it is that you're talking about. What street is it on?
Right.
What's the address? I can call, I don't need to be mayor for that.
Right.
I can call waste management for you today.
That's correct.
If you can give me your address and we can, and if that resident has their trash to the edge of the street, they don't have tires, they don't have paint, they don't have it under a power line, they don't have it sitting on the back of a trailer, that resident has to follow the rules as well.
That's correct.
In order to get your trash picked up. So give me the details. Let us see if that person, is following the rules to get their trash picked up, and let's make it happen.
So
it's just
when you go to one of those places, I guess that's where I'm going to come from. I'll come from that angle. You go to one of those places, and you've code enforcement had to go because their property is overrun with trash. Or clutter or whatever the case may be. And they've given them a notice, hey, you've got to clean this up, because let's be fair, you have neighbors and your neighbors don't want to see that. As a neighbor, I don't want to see that. And I'm going to do anything I can to help my neighbors. One of my neighbors sometimes isn't home in the morning, and one of them works nights. And one of them is an elderly lady. If I go outside and bring my trash can up and nobody else has brought them up, I just put them back. I don't go put their trash cans back. It's not a big deal.
Why not? It doesn't take anything away from you.
Right. And one of them's not home and one of them's not able. It's not a big deal, right? So you give this person, or code enforcement gives this person, hey, you have got to clean this up. And then they go on Facebook and they're like, Lafonda Stelly is running this place in the ground. I can't, it's a communism or whatever they may say, they can't tell me what to do on my property, blah, 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 and she needs to worry about this instead of my property. And so how do you handle something like that?
Well, if they're living inside of the city limits and if code enforcers have given them a letter, they're human, right? So you have to figure out what is the problem. Is it that you just want your yard to look like that? Is it that maybe you're not able to get all of your trash to the edge of the road so the dumpster and the big pickup claw thing can pick it up?
Right.
Like, what is the problem? This city is not that big to where, that code enforcer can't knock on the door and say, do you need help? Is it something that an organization within the city can go out, like they'll have soldiers that you can get a group of soldiers together.
Correct.
That would be more than happy to go and help this guy drag his, stuff to the edge of the road.
You're a very logical person, aren't you?
Well, 33 years of having to be, and then another,
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just getting the sense that in that, and I feel like Dr. Evil now that I have a cat.
I'm good at it.
No. But I'm getting the sense that just wouldn't even enter into the equation for you of like, oh, there's people criticizing me online.
No, because
and
to
that's an
me,
awesome thing.
Well,
I
whether
like
they're
that.
criticizing or whether they're applauding you, it's just information that you can use. If
Right.
they're criticizing and saying you're doing something, this is what you're not doing, then let's go and see how we can, assist them. Because, the squeaky wheel, right? They always
get the
you
grease.
can always hear them. So, well, they don't always get the grease because sometimes you have to realize they have to realize that they're wrong.
Right.
Get your trash to the street and then we'll pick it up. So it just becomes a communication issue. And just being transparent with them and seeing what is your issue.
I have a feeling
this
she's
is
a
what
very strong communicator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logical, hyper logical, which like you said, you have to be in your job, but also a people person. Or would you describe yourself as a people person?
Oh my gosh, I love to talk. I'll talk all day.
That's
how much more time we
rare
have?
combination.
It is a rare combination.
Yeah.
So what is one of your biggest faults?
My biggest fault.
She was like,
And I know that
I told you I was
toxic
never
positivity
wrong.
will not.
Yeah.
But, or let's put it this way: what is something you're working on as a person? What's
I'm working on not always saying yes.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
if someone calls me and they say, I'll use my ex-husband as an example again. He said, I have a house on Country Club Circle that, finally they've moved out. I need you to go and look at it and see what you can do. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. So I look at it and there's no backside of this house. It has gotten so many, letters from the city saying something needs to happen, do.
Sorry.
do you like cats?
Well, I have like two of them,
Okay.
2 porch cats.
Okay.
So,
As long as you're not allergic or something.
no, I'm not at all. So
Feel free to just place her down too. She's.
She never gets in anybody's lap.
Okay, well, see, she
like,
loves me.
She's like, yeah, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. Don't pick on her. She's not wrong. So she came from one of the homeless encampments.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So Greg saved her. Yeah,
Good. Well, thank you for saving her.
yeah, and she really loves Greg.
Did you get her spayed or neutered? Because that's another issue in the city that we're going to have to try to figure out.
Yeah, we have not yet.
Okay.
But she doesn't go outside.
Okay.
She won't go outside. So
Okay, good.
She's the smartest cat I've ever seen. Like she's just, we've had so many cats. I feel like growing up that would just get up in the engine of cars or whatever when they parked, and several cats have met their demise from that, or just whatever. But the second you get into a piece of equipment, or I'm driving the forklift around a lot or whatever, she's like has her
gets out of
distance.
there.
Not just like a scaredy cat, but she knows. It's real. Yeah, it's interesting.
So if everything
be
goes
thankful.
right, what does Leesville look like to you if you're elected in 4 years?
Oh man, if everything goes right. Okay, so one thing I do watch is those Hallmark shows at the Christmas time, where you just have an amazing little town with all of the streets filled with little businesses and restaurants, and just something beautiful that everyone can come to.
I would
and
love to see downtown lit up for Christmas again.
Yes.
Which I know is not the responsibility of the city, but we've lost that. And again, DeRitter's kicking our butt in that. And I would love to see that happen because we don't have it anymore.
Well, we don't have enough businesses down there in order to support that effort.
Yeah.
Everybody would do something in front of their store, but when you have 2 or 3 businesses, it looks like there's effort. They'll paint the windows and they'll do, certain things.
Right.
But when that's only every, 3rd building, even if they're trying, it doesn't look like enough.
Right.
You know what I think really hurts our downtown area is that you're not forced to travel through downtown for anything.
No,
like you go
have
on
to want
171.
to.
Yeah.
Except for going to the post office.
Right.
You have to go to 3rd Street to go to the post office if needed.
Most towns, it's or a lot of towns, it's if you're driving through small towns, you're going to go through downtown.
Right.
And as a result of that, the area flourishes.
Correct. Because you have the traffic for it.
Yeah.
Like say Bunkie, Louisiana. I had gone out there, dragged Tammy with me to go and talk to Mr. Greg. He's a guy out there that, went off into life, made a ton of money, and came back to his hometown and opened up 50-something businesses. But he said he had to do it because the city wasn't doing it. And they had Highway 71 that runs right through Bunkie. So, of course, as you're building these businesses, you have the traffic, and now they're stopping at those businesses.
Right.
So collectively, him investing in his town with his own money because the city wasn't doing it, and having that highway there. So now he says the city calls him and says, hey, look, we have this building. What can you do with it?
Oh, well, that's a good thing, though. At least they're embracing it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I'd like to see better city and urban planning here, because there's, I don't know what capacity you're going to have if elected, during your term. But I would hope that if decisions come up that could potentially increase our, what is it called? Street value, street visibility, whatever, in line with better urban planning mechanisms, that you would have that in mind. Right.
I mean, I live next door to an awesome human, and I always just say human, right? Because I just love the word human. He lived, Mr. Turner. He lives right
he's a good
across
one.
from me. I mean, he's a landscape architect. He's an urban planner. He's gone to other countries and, designed, like he is right here. He's
a treasure.
Yes. And I actually went, sat down underneath the little kitchen porch and talked to him today about, something, and brought my sign so he can put out in front of his yard.
He's all over the place like I am. So I love him.
You would love him.
Yeah.
His house, he has beautiful art in his house. And his house is not it's not like something he built like cookie cutter. This is like a perfectly curated repertoire that represents he and his wife. I don't know another way to put it. But it is if you ask him, is the house, because the house was built here. It was originally here, a smart house.
Yeah, it was built in 1855, and it was built by the founder of Leesville.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then I'm like, is the fireplace original? And he's like, no, I got that from, blah, blah, blah. And he can tell you where everything in his house came from. Yeah. He's a very interesting person. One of the nicest, kindest men that I've ever met in my life.
And his wife, she is.
I did not get the pleasure to meet her. I only met Mr. Turner, but the whole house is cool. Everything that he's doing is cool. All of his art is cool. I mean, it's just a cool dude.
Yeah,
he's
I
just
love that.
He does everything. He's an artist. He's a writer.
He was a professor.
At LSU.
I believe.
He writes so many books. He have a book signing next month or something.
He's land. He does.
These
can do,
June bugs.
I know, man.
Awful.
I know. He can do landscape architecture. I mean, he can draw. I mean, he just is.
Yeah, he'll draw like if I say, "Oh, Mr. Turner, I'm having, trouble trying to identify what I can do with such and such a project," and he'll be like, "Oh, okay." Now, I mean, he's right on it.
Right on it.
And he just makes the most beautiful,
Yep.
sketches.
We're gonna have to introduce you to him.
You should, and we can probably set up something to where he can tour.
We need to get
house.
him out here.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Maybe you and I can go to him for lessons on how to say no. Like, what's his filtering process?
Saying no
it is hard.
Maybe he doesn't have it down yet. I don't know, but
it's hard because people are coming to you because they hold you in high regard, and then
they know you can do it, right? Yeah. That's why I like.
And you don't want to let them down.
I should say I'll say no if I'm not interested in it or I think it's stupid or whatever. But I have so many varied interests and things that I want to get into that I can pretty much make anything into something that I'm interested in.
Well, that's an amazing thing, and you should explore that.
Absolutely,
to the fullest.
I am, but I'm also trying to focus in because I do have
Well, there's nothing
I don't know though.
Mr.
James is so eclectic.
Yes, he does.
It's
he's
everything.
Doing everything. Yeah.
So he's living, walking proof that you can be interested in everything.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can say yes to everything.
Yes.
Yeah, like we said in our other episode, I mean, it's yielded dividends from a learning perspective, like nothing else. But then I do find myself like, all right, I need to hone in on, one area so I can support myself, support my family. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You do have to have some level of focus And I guess that goes back to like the 300 priorities thing. So how do you feel like you would kind of whittle that down? And I know that you don't.
She's
wanna
like, no,
say
we're not
to
whittling.
anything,
Yeah,
but
We're doing it all simultaneously.
Hey, there's 24 hours in a
I don't have
day.
to whittle because I have a whole, console team.
That's okay. I love
going
that.
To
Yeah.
be,
Yeah, you split it
doing
up.
that. I have
Yeah.
organizations that's going to be doing that. I have, like once a person gets fired up to do it, I mean, it's easy.
I think
to,
it's a
to move
domino
forward.
effect, like a ripple
Correct.
effect too. If you've got like a team that's willing to do stuff, and you start getting everybody involved, I think it makes the ripple that's needed.
Now you will run into limitations though with your team size or with capacity or through whatever, and you will have to prioritize at some point. I'm getting the feeling that you're probably going to have a very structured prioritization process, or at least very logical. How do you approach that?
Logical. After District 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 come and say, this is what I need to do in my district right now. We can work on more things. One thing at a time. It looks like your process is slow.
Right.
If you're working on 20 things at a time and 20 things are getting done, now it looks like you're moving forward.
Right.
Why are we working on one thing at a time?
Right.
You don't have to. There's a multitude of individuals that's out there to make that happen.
So on the closing out, I'm going to ask. I like to ask fun questions. What I've asked this one to everybody, and I think your answer is very indicative of how we vibe or get along. So, what is your go-to gas station snack?
Well,
Greg's never answered this question.
I
so,
haven't.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get an answer from you and him.
So when I'm traveling, and definitely when I'm traveling with the ex-husband, because I'll stay in the car, and he already knows I need a bag of Funyuns and I need a Pepsi.
Oh my gosh.
She's a Pepsi gal.
I'm the bag of Funyuns and Pepsi.
Okay, so
he already knows it, and if he knows that, like if I'm working,
I'm so
10
excited.
hours, he will bring me a bag of Funyuns and a Pepsi.
Listen,
he
I'm just
already knows.
excited.
It's nuts because I was going to say Funyuns. Like
Really?
Funyuns
Oh
are
my gosh, that is the go-to.
Funyuns and hot Cheetos are my two
I
absolute
love hot Cheetos.
favorites.
Oh, I can't do the hot.
I
can
love
do
Flamin'
Cheetos,
Hots.
but I can't do the hot.
No, I love Flame, and they're terrible for you too. They're terrible.
yeah.
So, what's your go-to drink then?
I do think the Pepsi thing is a little weird. Like,
I see. I get Pepsi hate all the time, and I'm a Pepsi
you?
gal.
Oh, man.
Coke burns. Coke burns. Period. And not cocaine. I'm talking about Coca-Cola. I'm like Coca-Cola burns to me, and Pepsi's just smoother.
I can.
I love a good
do it.
Pepsi.
Yeah.
Well,
see
Pepsi
that.
Zero now.
Coke is so crisp though. Coca-Cola.
I think that's what I'm saying is burns. Yeah. So what's your drink then?
Like a NOS or a Red Bull.
Oh, okay.
No. But if I'm not drinking caffeine, man, I'm all over the place, but probably like Coke or Mountain Dew if it were gonna be a soft
So if
drink.
you had
But
like a favorite
water.
soft drink, what was it? Pepsi's your favorite soft
Pepsi.
drink? So what's your
Pepsi
favorite
all day.
soft drink?
It's got to be Coke.
Got to be Coke.
Cola,
Okay,
yeah.
fair enough. So are you a coffee drinker or a
No,
tea
I
drinker?
don't drink coffee.
Really?
I will drink like Sonic and lemonade. They probably hear my truck coming.
They're like, oh, get them lemonade ready.
Yes.
Okay, so what about, are you an early riser or a late sleeper?
Well,
Are you a night owl?
I would love to be a
Oh,
late
same.
sleeper,
Same.
but just life doesn't allow that. You
No.
just have to get up and get after it.
Yeah, it's how it is. Like I always say, I'm going to sleep in, and inevitably at 6:00 a.m. every single morning, I'm going to wake up. It doesn't matter if it's Saturday. It doesn't matter if I have nothing to do. I'm just going to be up, and I can go to bed at 11 o'clock the night before, 12 o'clock. Greg's a night owl, so he's totally opposite from us.
Yeah, I'm a
Depending.
night owl too.
Yeah.
I can stay up until like 2 a.m. doing, catching up on your taxes, whatever it is that I have to do. But night is good for me because it's real quiet.
It's quiet.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
what Galen says. He's like, I prefer to do things like if we're going to go somewhere, like say, hey, we're going to go to Houston for the weekend. We'll get all the stuff done for, paperwork and stuff Friday night. And he'll be like, okay, we're going to hit the road at like midnight. And I'm like, why are we going at midnight? And he's like, because there's nobody on the road. That's, it's going to take us 2 hours to get to Houston. Let's go. So that's how Galen is. And it's what he says. Everybody's gone and it's quiet, so but me about 9 o'clock, I got to go to bed. I'm out. Like I'm a little grandma.
9 o'clock, I might be eating dinner.
Yeah.
I got a long way to go.
Yeah. I'm one meal a day, night owl. I'm like, and you may notice that I wear black a lot. Like it's like a choice fatigue thing.
You notice
like
Galen.
Black goes with everything.
I love dark colors.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
So if you had unlimited funds, okay, what is one building you would fix in Leesville right now?
On 171
Anywhere,
or on 3rd Street?
Anywhere. Unlimited funds, and you could fix any building on 3rd Street.
Why does it have to be one?
I mean, any building in Leesville.
Because you're saying unlimited funds.
Unlimited
I
funds.
could just start naming it.
But you have to pick one to prioritize.
Okay, so the first one, the new barbecue stand that they just built, I would work on that building.
The building next to it? Yeah.
Because how are you going to expect, residents to come to the cute little, barbecue building that you just built, and it's right next to like a total.
So to me, my priority would be Vernon Bank, the old Vernon Bank. And I think that if we restored everything and we went back in and restored everything, because obviously have unlimited funds. It's got like marble floors and stuff in it. And I think if we went in and restored and refurbished everything, I think that would be the coolest wedding venue.
Doesn't Christina own that building?
She does. But I don't have
say,
unlimited funds.
I think she doesn't either, which is why she hasn't restored it.
But
Like she had plans for a while, and then
I think it would be the coolest like wedding venue or like photography venue. And it may not be a revenue generator, but if I had unlimited funds, I wouldn't need funds, so it wouldn't matter. Just hey, use this for your prom photos. But like that part of me with that bank vault in there, it's got to be some cool speakeasy feel.
I was gonna say I'd turn it into a speakeasy.
Like I think it's too small to be like some type of venue to like hold parties and stuff. But
the photography experience in there, like for proms and stuff, man, it would be unmatched. It would be unmatched. Right. And I've always thought it was cool. But yeah, speakeasy.
I would turn it into like a craft brewery, like speakeasy.
Yeah, you can have like the restaurant upstairs and
like 1930s cocktail vibe by night.
It
like
gives me those vibes.
Prohibition.
Yeah.
And then by day, like craft brewery,
I mean, come
we
on,
need to brew some beer here. Maybe I'll sound like an alcoholic, but I love beer, damn it. And
well,
a lot of towns have their little, craft brews and stuff. And
I had gone to visit my son for Christmas because we didn't want him to spend his first Christmas alone when he moved up to New York. And we went to Rochester, and everywhere you looked, there was a craft brewery place on the water here. On they were
for
all
anybody
over the
that
place.
doesn't know, we do have an actual local legal moonshine distillery.
Oh yeah, they're on Billy Goat Hill.
The Moonshine Festival is this weekend, which they won't see
really?
this. Yeah, it is. They have it at the fairgrounds this weekend. Yeah. They won't see that until it's too late. So I'll have to share it to the Facebook. But the Moonshine Festival's coming up, but it's illegal. It is a legal thing, and they have flavors.
All flavors.
Out the wazoo. I mean, like pickles. They got apple pie. They've got like mudslide. You name it, they have it. You should definitely visit them. Go to the Moonshine Festival this weekend. You would love it.
I'm just thinking how to get there. I'm like, do we have Uber?
No, it's here.
What?
It's here.
Vernon, is it?
Well, I know, but I'm at the fairground.
Yeah, Vernon Fairground.
Yeah.
I was thinking of how drunk I would get sampling moonshine.
You're talking
I need
about
a designated driver. Yeah.
You have to. You listen. You're
Well,
gonna
you
have
can call
to
me because I don't drink. I'll get you home.
I'll be home too. So you can call us. We'll get you home. Don't worry. And then the last question I'm going to ask, and I think this is one of the most important questions because everybody has one. What is your favorite like Leesville local spot? Like food. Any of those, like your just favorite. Mine is I think very underrated, and I have 100 favorites by the way. But if I had to think about one that I feel like sometimes gets forgotten, it's Starlight.
Oh yeah, that's old school right there.
Yeah,
and she's just so nice.
She is.
And, when she sees you walk in, she already knows what you're going to order.
Yeah.
Because, it's just consistent, right? You go to a place because that's the item that you want. So when you walk in, she already knows.
Yeah. If I had to pick like a local restaurant, I think that one would be it.
Man, I don't frequent Starlight. Like, we don't frequent Starlight as much as we should because it's
out.
cash only. And
It is cash only, but you know what?
I need to go to the ATM.
There, you don't have cash. She will let you go to an ATM, get the cash, and bring it back. And it's after you've eaten.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a better businesswoman in my mind, honestly. Because, matter of fact, I live near Starlight, and she had to go down for like a week and a half after Hurricane Laura. She went back to work after the electricity came back on, and the first thing that happened was a generator went on the ground. And she can now run with no electricity. The whole restaurant runs. Yeah. So she was serious about that. Like, y'all are not going to do that. Like, this is not going to happen to me again. I'm going to be able to run my business. And I just have so much love for all of our local spots. I love to eat at Hickory Smokehouse. I love to eat at Jack's. And admittedly, my menu options are limited now, but I still don't have a problem at any of our local joints finding something I can eat.
God, Tadapetch, Sam. Yeah, Tadapetch has got to be mine.
Yeah.
But man, speaking about remembering order, I think Sam has a photographic memory or something. Like, I think he has some sort of special thing going on, because you can call him. Like, we've gotten to the point where we'll call him, to place a pickup order or whatever, and he'll just recognize my voice on the phone and just remember every little detail about everyone's order.
Right.
Like my
and
dad,
everyone's life, because I'll go in there and he'll be like, "How's your son?" And my son and his son took like jujitsu, forever ago. Why he still remembers that, I don't know.
Your son did jujitsu here? At
on 3rd Street, my son and my daughter.
Oh, the Japanese jujitsu place?
Yeah, the one on 3rd Street across from the Vernon Bank.
Okay, gotcha. I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu with Chris Champagne. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know
He's
him.
been around. Yeah, it was when I was younger, but anyway.
And it's just amazing how,
Apparently Greg was a menace as a child, so it's probably channeling his anger,
Yeah, I think our cops, Joe Rogan and other people have said this, but I think our cops absolutely should do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or some form of martial arts, judo.
I think we have a couple that do.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I think we have a few that do.
It's gained so much popularity recently.
Well, there's definitely one for sure that his sleeves don't fit over his guns, and I'm not messing with that guy. I would not run from that guy.
Yeah, well, that guy, if he hasn't already, needs to learn how to channel his strength. Like we need police officers who are effective but gentle, know how to subdue someone without hurting them. Right?
We honestly, I've met all of our officers, and we have some of the nicest officers. We really do. We have some of the and of course I understand if you've had a run in with them, you're probably having a bad day, and they might not have been nice to you. But part of their job is very high tense, stressful situations. So it's not always rainbows and sunshine, but. For the most part, on the whole, if you meet them,
very helpful,
very kind, and I can't, and the same thing with the sheriff's office. I feel the same way. Some of them are, crotchety and ready to retire, but they're still at the end of the day, they're good-hearted dudes, so.
They're humans.
Yeah, they're humans. They're just,
My relationship with the Vernon Parish Police Department has vastly improved since I've been rebuilding the engine on my car and have to drive Marianne's Jetta. It's
he's like, I've had to slow down a lot.
Yeah, and car is a temptation.
Yeah,
and the bike is, but
so the closing question is going to be.
We have another closing question.
Yes, okay. The close. Well, those were the fun ones. This one's the actual political one. If you don't have an opportunity to get out and meet everybody, and maybe this is the only way that they hear your message. What is the one thing you want to tell them about your heart in all of this?
I want to stress that it doesn't matter who you vote for. You just need to get out there and vote. Because in the last election 4 years ago,
24%.
Yeah, 705 voted. So it makes no sense to me that 705 vote. You have 4,000 active voters, and you have about 10,000 on Facebook complaining about everything in Leesville. So let's get the numbers right. If you care, you go out and vote. So we want to see 4,000, who are currently active, and maybe more, because you still have time to go and register to vote. You still have like the middle of April. So there's still time, if you're not a registered voter, to get out there and vote.
Yeah, what's the exact day? Do we know?
It's going to be May 16th.
No. The register to vote
register.
deadline.
It's like a month before the actual.
Hold on, I'll pull it up. And
let's pull it up, because we should maybe do a short or something in the next 2 weeks, or push it somehow.
Yeah, and I've noticed, I'll tell you this, because Facebook politicking is hard. When you put the word vote in anything or anything about an election, that's why I always stress to people to make a graphic and put it on there, because if you type that word out, Facebook buries it. Facebook buries it every time. So I'm pulling up the, trying to find it. I know it's been posted. So there it is. Okay, so May 16th is the primary election.
Correct.
The last day to register and vote or make any changes in person by mail is April the 15th. Online, you can go to www.geauxvote.com. That's govote.com. And you can make changes or register online from your phone, from your home, up to April the 25th. Early voting is Saturday, May the 2nd through Saturday, May the 9th, excluding May the 3rd, because that's a Sunday. You never do that. And the hours for early voting are 8:30 to 6 p.m. daily at the Registrar of Voters, located at 301 East Courthouse Street in Leesville. So that's all the information. And for any candidate, and I had to learn this the hard way, any candidate that may be running, if you have on any merchandise, any attire that has your name on it, for a Vote For Me candidate information or whatever, if you have anything on your car, you cannot go within so many, I think it's 500 feet of any of those buildings on voting day or early registrator. You cannot do it. Don't do it. It is an actual crime. Don't do it. I walked in there, unbeknownst to me, vote for Jessica Herring shirt, and they were like, "You can't wear that in here." And I was like, "My bad." Turn around and left. Had to go change shirts and then come back. Yeah. So, I mean, just make sure you don't do that, because I learned a lot of things the hard way. So, just...
And that's fine. You know it now, so you can push that information out.
Yeah, just make sure you don't do any of that, because I had like all the signs on my vehicle and everything. So you cannot do that. Don't do that.
You weren't wrong about it. It was a learning opportunity.
It was a learning opportunity. Yeah, we're going to have to start thinking like Lafonda on that.
I know.
I'm not wrong. I'm learning.
Right. You didn't know. Now you know.
Now you know.
You can't do it again.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And again, I'm going to extend the invite to anybody that's running for office. We have elections coming up in November as well. So if you want to get a head start on any of that, please reach out to myself or Greg. We'll start recording. If you want to do any commercials, let Greg know. I extended the invitation to Lafonda. If you want, if you need content or whatever, just reach out to us. We'll get back with you and take care of it, whatever it is you need. And then once Greg does what he does, you can use it on Facebook, KPLC, KALB. He doesn't really care what you do with it after you pay him. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Locally Hated. Y'all stay tuned, and we will see you next week.